sunny and it's hot in Baltimore, Maryland, and a great day to be outside. Over 47,000 fans on hand to watch the Baltimore Orioles host the Chicago White Sox. It's a great matchup today as each team is chasing the leader in its respective division. The Yankees lead the Orioles by 1 game in the East. And over in the Central, the Chicago White Sox are trailing the defending American League champion Cleveland Indians by just 1 game. A very pleasant good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Rooney along with Jeff Torborg. Jeff, the Cleveland Indians are expected by many to make it back to the World Series. But why are the Chicago White Sox so much better than they were a year ago?
Well, John, I think it comes down to pitching. Go back 2 years. 94, they had the best pitching staff in the American League. They were a first-place team. They traded their ace, Jack McDowell. 1995, they were 10th in rankings. 1996, they added Kevin Tapati, James Baldwin. They are leading the league in pitching again, and they're chasing the Indians.
And when you talk about the Chicago White Sox, you have to mention the big hurt Frank Thomas with some unbelievable numbers.
Oh, when you think about what he's done, something that no one else in Major League history has ever done, not just 5 consecutive years, the first 5 years of his career he's accomplished that.
On the other side, Roberto Alomar has created so much excitement. He's batting over 400 coming into the game today. I don't know, maybe in the year of the offense, someone can hit 400 and Alomar has a jump start.
Well, he's got the ability to do it because he can run. He's at a good ballpark. He's a very heady player. He's hitting .408 now, hit a home run last night. He just keeps right on going. This is getting a little later in the season now. It should be interesting.
Roberto Alomar has been moved from the number 2 spot down to the number 3 position in the order so he can hit some more home runs, drive in a few more runs, while Brady Anderson is at the top of his game. He has 20 home runs from the leadoff position. Our pitchers today, James Baldwin is going to make the start for the White Sox. The rookie right-hander will be opposed by left-hander Kent Mercker. Coming up, we have the White Sox and the Baltimore Orioles. A beautiful day for baseball in Baltimore. We'll be back in Camden Yards after these messages from your local station.
Weekday mornings at 10, 9 Central on Fox.
Welcome back to Oriole Park at Camden Yards for the Orioles and the Chicago White Sox. And here's the Miller starting lineup for the White Sox. The leadoff batter is Tony Phillips. Ray Durham will play second base. Then it's Frank Thomas playing first. The designated hitter is Lal Mouton, followed by Danny Tartabull, Chris Snopek. Jack Critter is going to be doing the catching. Lewis is in center field, and the shortstop is Ozzie Guillen. We're set to play baseball as Kent Mercker is making the start today for the Orioles. Mercker at 6'2", 195 pounds, 28 years old, makes his home in Dublin, Ohio. A record of 3-3, a 6.70 earned run average. And he's set to face Tony Phillips. Kent Mercker came over from the Atlanta Braves. And Jeff, he hasn't pitched in a while.
No, I think it's been 13 days in between his starts, and the last one was a good outing. Only gave up 1 hit into 6 innings.
Showing bunt, Tony Phillips went after it on the appeal. First base umpire Durwood Merrill brings up a strike, and we're underway at Oriole Park. Tony Phillips comes in hitting .318. He has 6 home runs and 37 runs batted in. 1 ball and 1 strike on Phillips. Phillips has been a key addition to the White Sox, and Jeff, they feel that he is the leadoff man they've been missing for years here.
He's a real spark plug, John. You could see what he did last year when he went to the Angels. He sparked the Angels. He got a little tired in September. When he slumped, the club slumped. He can do that for a club.
2 balls, 1 strike on Tony Phillips, and the 1 strike was on an attempted bunt on the very first pitch by Kent Mercker. Phillips hit 27 home runs last year for the California Angels, and he was quite surprised they didn't keep him in California. Try to keep the team a little closer together, closer to what it was in playing Seattle. In right field, Bobby Bonilla drifting back. All the way to the track and makes the catch. And here's the defensive alignment for the Baltimore Orioles today.
In left field, I should say, Jeffrey Hammonds. In center field is Brady Anderson. Bobby Bonilla, as you noticed, was in right field. B.J. Surhoff at third. Cal Ripken Jr. and Roberto Alomar in the middle. 2 of the best that maybe ever played together in this game. Rafi Palmeiro's at first base, and Greg Zahn is the catcher.
Second place hitter in the White Sox lineup today is Ray Durham. Durham's in his 2nd season with Chicago. He's hitting .277 with 5 home runs and 27 runs batted in. A switch hitter, batting right-handed against Mercker. 1 ball and no strikes on Durham. The way the ball carried on the fly ball by Tony Phillips, it kept going and going, and Bonilla back in front of the scoreboard in right field. Doesn't take a lot to get the ball out of here. 2 balls, no strikes on Durham.
John, and that was a fastball that registered at 88 miles an hour. One of the problems that Kent Mercker has had coming over here from Atlanta, he has just not had the same fastball that he used to have in the National League, and that puzzled the Orioles.
2 balls and a strike. Foul ball by Ray Durham.
And an interesting story about that, Mike Flanagan, who was a great pitcher here with the Orioles, said he had the same thing happen at one point, and that was after he had won the Cy Young Award in '79 and '80. He felt good, but nothing was coming out of his arm, and he said it was a weak shoulder.
Off-speed pitch is in for a strike, and the count at 2-2.
So he went down to Kent Mercker and asked, how does your shoulder feel? So they tested him and found that he had a weak supraspinatus behind the shoulder, and they've been working on it.
Ray Durham strikes out on the high fastball, and he looks strong. It has been a long time in between starts. And he comes out strong. Kent Mercker gets his first strikeout of the day. Here it is.
Yeah, and this was an 89-mile-an-hour fastball. He just threw it right by Ray Durham up in the strike zone, and that's what Davey Johnson has been looking for from Kent Mercker. That's the kind of pitcher he was when he was with the Braves.
Nobody on base and 2 outs in the first inning, and here's Frank Thomas. He's hitting .338. Strike called on the outside part of the plate. Career .351 batter, 20 home runs, 50 runs batted in against the Orioles. He loves hitting in this ballpark. Off speed to Thomas. Have you ever seen a hitter, though, with the combination of the power, average, and the patience at the plate?
No, John, when we brought him up, I was managing the White Sox, and in 1990, I can honestly say I've never seen anybody that big, that selective as a hitter.
Out to Thomas at 2 balls and a strike.
But people don't realize how big Frank is. He weighs about 280 pounds. He's 6'5", strong as an ox, can hit the ball out anywhere. And as you mentioned, everybody likes to hit in this ballpark.
Check swing. Thomas didn't want to offer, and the count's 2 balls and 2 strikes. With Frank's arms getting so big, Jeff, he's going to need a new jersey sometime, isn't he?
I was up talking with him, John. I looked at him. I said, Frank, you look like you got somebody else's legs sticking out of your uniform shirt. He is as hard as a rock. Boy, does he work hard in the wintertime.
Won back-to-back Most Valuable Player awards. That's to right field and down the line. Out of play. The count 2 balls, 2 strikes on Thomas. Nobody on base and 2 outs as we're just getting started at Camden Yards.
John, when we had Frank Thomas with the White Sox, and he was signed out of Auburn University, one of the #1 picks that the White Sox had, who all made it to the big leagues within 4 years. Frank came up to our ball club, and we had him in spring training of 1990. I wanted to keep him, but the general manager said he wasn't ready.
Did he offer? No, according to Derwin Merrill, the first base umpire. The check swing is in time. Tell you what, a good job by Zahn to jump all over that. Ask for the appeal. See what the fans think.
Ball is down, and you can see the head of the bat come like it's almost going across the plate, but it takes an extremely strong man to stop the bat from going across.
That's a base hit to left field. On a 3-2 pitch, Frank Thomas is on board for Lau Mouton. Thomas adds to his .338 average with a 2-out single. Lau Mouton, he's out of the LSU program, came from the New York Yankees over to the White Sox to complete the Jack McDowell trade last year. His LSU Tigers are playing in the College World Series today against Miami.
Yeah, he also played basketball at LSU. That's how good an athlete he is.
Mercker will work out of the stretch now for the first time. Strike call. Fastball in there.
John, the Orioles have to be pleased with this. Mercker is really popping the ball today. That was 89 miles an hour. And that's what they have been looking for. He's been down around 85, 86 miles an hour, and they were really concerned about it. So was he. He was trying to nibble instead of challenging hitters.
1 strike to count on Mouton. In the right field and down the line. Thomas will go to third, and Mouton is going to try second base. Bonilla into Alomar. Runners at second and third and 2 out for Chicago. And Danny Tartabull will be the hitter. First hit for Lau Mouton in 7 career at-bats against Oriole pitching.
Well, this is a fastball on the outer part of the plate, and Mouton actually didn't look like he was trying to go to right. He was a little late on it and went down the right field line, but a pretty good piece of hitting to lay it inside that right field line. And Bobby Bonilla had to be a little careful going over in that line to make sure it didn't bounce out of that corner.
Lau Mouton is 4 for his last 4. Had a 3-for-3 game against the Boston Red Sox earlier this week. Danny Tartabull has been struggling. On the trip to Boston and now Baltimore, Tartabull has just one hit. That's on the outside corner. Keeping Tartabull healthy has been a problem, hasn't it, Jeff?
Throughout his career, John, when he's been healthy, he's put the big numbers up, but he was hurt a lot when he was with Kansas City. Got hurt after having a good year with the Yankees, and he just can't seem to stay healthy.
White Sox feel that Tartabull being in a contract year and in good health will give them some big numbers. Deep in center field. Brady Anderson on the run. He can't make the catch near the wall, and 2 runs are going to score. Tartabull's going for third. And he's going to make it sliding. Tartabull gets a triple with 2 outs, and the White Sox lead Baltimore 2-0.
John, that was a very strange-looking play because Jeffrey Hammonds didn't even go back to the wall on it. I don't know if maybe he lost that when it first went off the bat out of the shirt sleeves, but here's the pitch from Merker. Right down the middle. Danny Tartabull likes to get his arms extended. Now, Brady Anderson went for the ball near the wall and knew he was getting close and kind of just flagged at it. But Jeffrey Hammonds, I don't think even saw the ball at first, but he did back the play up well, which held Tartabull to 3 bases.
Pat Dobson out to the mound to talk it over with Kent Merker. Merker was sailing along, got Tony Phillips on a fly ball to right field, leading off the inning. And Ray Durham struck out on a high fastball. But then came Frank Thomas. And Thomas, on a borderline check swing, was able to live at least one more pitch. Got a base hit to left field. Val Mouton hit a double to right field. And Danny Tartabull has tripled in 2 runs.
Well, watching Davey Johnson in the dugout, you can see he's concerned. They're saying now he's throwing the ball the way we want him to as far as velocity is concerned. The problem that he's just had is that he laid 2 balls basically in the middle of the plate. First to Lyle Mouton and then to Danny Tartabull. I don't care how hard you throw. If it's in the middle of the plate, good hitters will have a chance of hitting it.
White Sox have been a good early inning scoring team this year. They've outscored their opponents 88-50 in the first 2 innings of a ball game in 1996. They come in with a 37-21 record. Chris Snopek is the batter, right-handed hitting infielder. He takes his time as the pitcher, Kent Merker, backs off the rubber. One ball, no strikes on Chris Snopek. 2 outs in the White Sox half of the first inning. Nice block by Zahn. That's a run saved, Jeff.
It really is, John. That important thing for a young catcher when there's a runner at third base is to put his head down on the ball, square off in front of the ball, and keep it there. Whenever you give the sign to the pitcher, you think in your mind, this ball could be a wild pitch. That's your intention, to make sure you don't let it get by you.
The count goes to 3-0 on Chris Snopek.
You know, John, one of the thoughts I had before, and it's easy to say after the play's been over with, but when you had Danny Tartabull hitting, there was an open base at first base, and I was wondering if maybe they would pitch around him to pitch to young Snopek.
That's a strike. 3-1 on Snopek.
And what I mean by pitching around, when you have an open base a lot of times, a manager and a pitcher and a catcher will say, we're going to pitch very carefully to this particular hitter, and if we can't get him to hit our pitch, we don't mind walking him.
That's on the right side of the infield. Rafael Palmeiro and Zahn, they collide, but the Orioles get the out. After 2 outs, Thomas, Mouton, and Tartabull hit safely, and the White Sox have a 2-0 lead over the Orioles, with the Orioles coming to bat at Camden Yards. Welcome back to Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore, Maryland. It's time for the Miller starting lineup for the Baltimore Orioles. Davey Johnson's lineup card reads like this, with Brady Anderson. Luis Poloni is the designated hitter. Roberto Alomar is playing second base. Rafael Palmeiro at first base. Bobby Bonilla in right field. Cal Ripken at shortstop. B.J. Surhoff, Greg Zahn, and Jeffrey Hammonds complete the Orioles lineup. On defense, Jeff.
Yeah, the White Sox defense. Tony Phillips in left field. Darren Lewis in center. Danny Tartabull's in right field. Chris Snopek is at third base. Ozzie Guillen, who's really stepped his game up. He's a former Gold Glover All-Star. He's really having an outstanding year. Ray Durham, the young second baseman. Frank Thomas at first, and Chad Kruder is the catcher. James Baldwin is the pitcher, and James is a young guy who's just getting his act together. John, you know better than I, but he throws hard. He's got a great curveball. all of a sudden his confidence is coming together, and he's 5-1, and that's a good way to success breeds confidence, I think.
I think it does too, Jeff. And last year they were looking for James Baldwin to come up along with Scott Ruffcorn and some of their younger pitchers, really make an impact, and it didn't happen for him. In 6 games, 4 starts, he was 0-1. Brady Anderson leads off the game. Brady at 0-1 is hitting .302 with 20 home runs and 37 RBIs. The 20 home runs, and Anderson always believed in his time with the Boston Red Sox, and when he was traded over to these Baltimore Orioles, he could hit for power. 1 ball and 1 strike on Brady Anderson, but he can mix up his game. He can bunt if he has to. He can move runners along. Johnny Oates a few years ago, though, told him to start swinging away and producing runs. Slider in for a strike, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Now that's the 3rd pitch for James Baldwin. He's got a slider to go with a real good hard downer curveball, and he's got a changeup as well. If he has trouble getting that big overhand curveball over for a strike, which with this limited strike zone can happen,
2 balls and 2 strikes.
he will go to the slider, but he really has good breaking ball.
2-2 on Brady Anderson. Close call goes Brady Anderson's way. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
And John, that was a good live fastball at 89 on the gun. So you've got 2 guys out there that have lightened the gun up pretty well. But what it comes down to is where you locate.
Right side foul territory. Chad Kreuter shading his eyes from the sun. No play. The ball goes way back in the seats. James Baldwin in 1996 is 5-1. He has an earned run average of 3.40. And this game is his 9th start. Does not have a complete game, and the opponents have hit .253 against him.
And what you like, John, when you look at these numbers in 42 innings, if you're looking for some kind of ratio, 34 strikeouts in 42 innings is very good. And the walk ratio, you'd like to see a little bit lower. He's got 16.
Foul ball back our way. Look out, Jeff.
You know, I was about to say, too, before, when that foul pop-up that Brady fouled off here, when the catcher in a day game goes for a ball on a bright day like this, it is very difficult. You could see Chad Kreuter shading his eyes with his glove. I broke a nose on one like that. I thought I had my eyes shaded from the sun, and the next thing I know, the ball hit me right in the nose, and it was very embarrassing, not to mention hurt.
This is a high pop on the right side, again in foul territory. Kreuter is looking for it. He played that well, Jeff.
He sure did, John. And one of the things that happened at the top half of the inning, if you remember, was when Greg Zahn and Rafi Palmeiro crashed together on a pop-up. It was because Kent Mercker didn't get off the mound and help him. The pitcher's got to get off the mound and act as a quarterback in this. And we'll see this pop-up. Here is Chad Kreuter going for this ball, and the pitcher is coming over. He's not there in time because the pitcher can get over and keep the first baseman and catcher from getting hurt, even if he has to step between them.
I'd say it's good communication, though, between Kreuter and Thomas to avoid a collision. That was an off-speed pitch to Luis Polonia. Polonia is batting .254, 1 home run, 6 runs batted in. He's doing the DHing today for the Orioles. Off Baldwin's leg to Ray Durham. And that goes 1-4-3, pitcher, second baseman to first.
Now, that was a good fastball that was hit back at him as hard as he threw the ball, and it hit off his leg. Now, the White Sox will keep an eye on him now, because if you do get hit off the leg, and here's the shot from Polonia coming back to the mound, and it hits somewhere around the shin ankle area, and boy, I'll tell you, you hit on that bone. You got nothing but bone there. That really hurts. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds to this for a while, especially when the shock wears off of getting hit in that shin.
Now we'll check Baldwin's approach to Robbie Alomar. Alomar taking all the way is behind 0-1. Alomar, 28 years old, signed a 3-year, $18 million contract as a free agent last winter. In the air, and no play for Snopek. He gave it a dive.
That was a real nice effort by Snopek. He came over and dove for the ball. Kind of funny angle he ran at the ball. He came at it first, and it went over his head. But what you just saw Robbie Alomar do is part of his arsenal. He can bunt. He can bunt from both sides of the plate. He runs well. He has an idea what's happening on the field all the time. Remember, he came from a baseball family. I played for 3 years with his father with the Angels, Sandy Alomar Sr., who was a very good player in his own right.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Roberto Alomar. Alomar has hit well against most every team in the American League. But against the White Sox, a career average of .374. That's a foul ball. And the count holds at 1 ball and 2 strikes.
John, when I sat in that dugout managing the White Sox and he hit against my, I don't think we ever got him out. It appeared that in one game, in fact, if you remember, he had home runs from both sides of the plate.
That's foul the other way.
Both times tying the game up. In the 9th inning, he hit a ball off of Bobby Thigpen, I remember, left-handed to tie the game up when we had looked like we had a win in hand. Then he came up again later in extra innings, hit a ball right-handed off of Scott Rudzinski. He's got power from both sides, and as we said, can run the whole package.
Right back through the middle. Ray Durham can't throw him out. A base hit for Robbie Alomar.
Well, he didn't hit that ball very well, but he hit it in the right place. That's kind of like scientific hitting, and that was the 22nd game in a row that he has gotten a base hit. And when you can run like he can, and you can get the ball a little bit away from the infielders, you've got a chance. Now, he didn't really hit this ball hard. He hit it off the handle, but it was perfectly placed. It was a nice play by Durham to get to the ball, but he never had a chance to throw Robbie Alomar out.
Alomar is on first base with 2 outs, and Rafael Palmeiro coming up. Palmeiro is hitting .314 with 12 home runs, 49 runs batted in. So it's like the White Sox first inning. After 2 outs, Thomas got on base. Alomar is on, extending the inning to the cleanup hitter. With the runner going, that is a foul ball. Foul ball. Alomar has to come back. Durwood Merrill.
Durwood Merrill, he's a caution. He's a former football coach out of Texas. He gets out there on the field. He gets emotional, demonstrative, but he was right on the play, and he got it right. But you know what I'd like to see? I like to see the aggressiveness of the Orioles here. Here's Robbie Alomar making a break for second base, even though they're 2 runs down. He's going for it. They're going to try to be aggressive. Frank Thomas makes a great play, but Durwood, outstanding show, right?
You could do a music video to that move by Durwood. Shake, rattle, and roll. Palmeiro back to the batter's box with a 1-strike count and 2 outs. Baldwin throws off speed away.
Palmeiro has been an outstanding hitter, so consistent for so long. And, of course, the 2 years since he came over from Texas with Baltimore, he's hit .319 and .310. 23 home runs the first year, 39 last year with 104 RBIs. Real tough out.
You think Frank Thomas is a tall first baseman? Robbie Alomar would be a runner at second or third right now.
He sure would be. Frank has become a good defensive first baseman. He always had trouble throwing, but he's always had good hands. And he likes to work at becoming a first baseman. Before, when he was a younger player, he struggled at it. People said, well, he's not going to be a total player, but he's worked hard at it.
Palmeiro hits the 1-1 pitch. Foul, out of place. Snopek gives it a look.
John, I look at Palmeiro, and I remember one of the things you do as a catcher, of course, is try to figure out, I never could hit, so I was always looking at other hitters trying to figure out, maybe if I tried to hit like that, I might be able to hit, or basically I was trying to find a way to get them out. The same is true of the manager on the other side of the field. And when I sat there watching Palmeiro when I managed against him, the book on him was to pitch him away early and hard in late, because early he would turn on the balls, as evidenced by some of his home runs, and then when he had 2 strikes on him, then he would use the whole field, which most good hitters do.
1 ball, 2 strikes. That's out of play off to the left.
Now that's what you call a sweet stroke. He didn't overswing at that. He just was very fluid, almost looked like a golf swing. The good hitters, and I don't know why it is, John, but maybe it's me, but left-handers look like they have prettier swings than right-handers. I don't know why. It's just so natural. Watch this swing. Nice and smooth, just laid it out there, released his top hand when the ball was away, and he fouled it off.
Talking about College World Series, we mentioned Lau Mouton played for the LSU program in the College World Series today against Miami. Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark, Jeff Brantley, Bobby Thigpen were all on the Mississippi State College World Series team.
Wow, what a program they had. I had an older son, Doug, who pitched against that team in a regional. He went to North Carolina with B.J. Surhoff, of course, here with Baltimore.
Pitch out on 1 and 2, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Interesting call right there on that pitch out. That comes from the bench. That basically comes from Joe Nosick, the coach with the White Sox, who gives most of the defensive setup. But they had a feeling that maybe they wouldn't mind if they did get Alomar at second base. If he's trying to steal, they wouldn't mind leading the inning off with Palmeiro.
Alomar goes. And he's the runner at second base, a full count on Rafael Palmeiro. And the stolen base is the 10th in 12 tries for Robbie Alomar.
Now that's interesting. Here the White Sox had pitched out on a one ball, 2 strike count. And then on this, it was 2-2, and you can see Robbie go. He'll get a couple steps before the ball's even near delivered, and Chad Kruder had no chance. Even though the ball was on the way down inside, he had no chance, even if the ball was thrown directly to him.
It was like Baldwin wasn't paying attention to Alomar after the pitch out. The count holds at 3 balls and 2 strikes on Palmeiro. If he gets on base, Bobby Bonilla will come up to bat. And the count at 3-2, a 2-0 score in favor of the White Sox. And there's Bonilla in the on-deck circle.
What a good call you just made, John. It looked like he fell asleep. Terry Bevington told me yesterday occasionally he gets so locked in as he's pitching, he forgets about the base runners. And, of course, the count was 2-2, and Robbie Alomar guessed that it was going to be breaking ball and could have gone in standing up.
That's over our heads, and the count holds at 3 balls, 2 strikes.
See, that's one more dimension of the game of Robbie Alomar. He is so wise. In fact, I think it was Tony La Russa, who's now managing the Cardinals, said that putting Robbie Alomar on the field with Cal Ripken, you got 2 of the smartest players in the league playing side by side. They just have a feel for the game, and that includes every part of the game for Alomar.
That includes knowing where to play the hitters.
Yes.
David Johnson told us yesterday it helps if the pitchers will pitch accordingly, though. On the infield, Ozzie Guillen is calling for it. He's wearing the shades. Palmeiro is out, and that does it for the Orioles in the first inning. Ozzie Guillen will be coming up. Darren Lewis, lower part of the order when the White Sox bat in the second. It's 2-0 Chicago. We have better than 47,000 fans on hand. Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore for the White Sox and the Orioles. The White Sox in their half of the second inning with a 2-0 lead. We'll have the lower third of the order coming up. And we'll begin with the catcher, Chad Kruder. Kruder has caught a little more this week because Ron Karkovice had to leave a game early on Tuesday in Boston with a slight hamstring pull.
John, Kruder's an interesting story. He's really bounced around. He started out with Texas, really had a difficult time swinging the bat.
Strike 1 from Kent Merker underway in the second.
Built himself up with weights, went over to Detroit, had a couple pretty good years there. Last year was with Seattle, and now catches on with the White Sox, and had filling in for Karko has done a very nice job.
2 home runs, 11 runs batted in, and even 200 average. Good off-speed breaking ball. About 70 miles an hour on that pitch, and the count 0-2.
You know what helps the pitcher? We're talking about Kent Merker being a little concerned about not popping the ball. All of a sudden, subconsciously, you don't want to challenge a hitter. It also takes away from your breaking ball. If you don't have arm strength, you don't throw a sharp breaking ball either.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Kruder's a switch hitter batting from the right side. And finding a backup catcher, though, quality backup catcher, they're in such demand these days, Jeff.
Yeah, they really are. If you've got a good catcher, knows his role, can come in and help a pitching staff, and that's what Kruder has done.
2 balls, 2 strikes after Kruder fell behind in the count, 0-2.
Terry Bevington told me yesterday that Kruder's done a nice job with James Baldwin. And once a pitcher and catcher get a nice relationship going, it becomes a flow, and all of a sudden the pitcher doesn't have to worry about situations.
The count holds at 2 balls and 2 strikes on Chad Kruder. It worked out last night where Terry Bevington could get Karkovice back into the lineup to catch Alex Fernandez. They have a good relationship, and today Kruder is behind the plate for Terry Bevington. Terry was a catcher himself, signed by the New York Yankees organization, did not play big league baseball.
Terry is an outstanding baseball guy. He's a third base coach for me.
Full count on Chad Kruder.
And I told him he better be careful, though. He was a third base coach for me, and I became manager of the year. I had to get that in. Third base coach for Gene Lamont. He was manager of the year. Now we said it's time for you to be the manager. The only problem was the 2 of us left soon after that.
Kruder lines out to Cal Ripken. We have 1 out in the second inning. Now let's go to our Hollywood studios for an update from Chip Carey.
John and Jeff, big doings at Tiger Stadium. They're honoring the Negro Leagues. And look at big Cecil Fielder rattle the wall at Tiger Stadium. A double in the bottom of the first inning. Erased a 1-0 New York lead as Chad Curtis and Travis Fryman score. It was 2-1 Detroit. They added another run. It's 3-1 Tigers in the second. Back to Baltimore.
All right, Chip, and some interesting uniforms in Detroit today.
Yeah, the reason for that, John, this is their 2nd annual Negro League Day at Tiger Stadium. So the Yankees are wearing uniforms of the New York Black Yankees, and the Tigers are wearing uniforms, reproductions, I should say, from the Detroit Stars uniforms.
Curveball fouled by Lewis, and the count no balls, 2 strikes. Darren Lewis hits .269 for the White Sox. He has 3 home runs and 22 runs batted in. Great defensive outfielder.
And just to harken back to that Detroit game just for a minute, they've got some of the great old players. Ted Double Duty Ratcliffe is there. Double Duty pitched a couple double headers, I think. That's where he got his nickname.
I thought he could pitch it and catch it at the same time.
Oh, maybe that's it.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Darren Lewis talked about his defensive prowess. He earned a Gold Glove while with the San Francisco Giants. That's a foul ball. Ron Jackson, the first base coach, makes the play, and he'll make a fan here happy. Last night in the first inning, Darren Lewis certainly saved a run.
Now here's a shot. Luis Polonia hits the ball in the right center field. But look at this. On the dead run, he catches this ball, puts his foot against the wall, and comes down. That is the type of play you can really get hurt on. If your foot catches in that wall, but he's got outstanding speed.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Darren Lewis, 1 out in the White Sox second. In center field, Brady Anderson. One center fielder takes care of the other. Critter and Lewis have lined out, and Ozzie Guillen is going to be the batter with 2 gone.
Now we talk about Ozzie Guillen when we were going over defensive setups. Ozzie Guillen was a captain for me with the White Sox, and of course when I left they took the captaincy away from Ozzie and Carlton Fisk, and a new manager, you know, likes to do things like that. He wants his own leaders. Ozzie was a terrific leader for me, but then he had that terrible injury in 1992. He had a collision with Tim Raines, had his knee completely reconstructed.
Brady Anderson is tested again on the drive by Ozzie Guillen. And Anderson makes the catch at the warning track. 1-2-3 for the White Sox in the second inning. Right fielder Bobby Bonilla will be stepping in for the Orioles when we come back to Oriole Park at Camden Yards, 2-0 Chicago. Camden Yards in Baltimore, Maryland. A look at the bench of the first base dugout. The Baltimore Orioles come to bat, and they're trailing the Chicago White Sox 2-0. Kent Merker today against James Baldwin. The White Sox rookie James Baldwin is ready to face the middle of the order with Bobby Bonilla, Cal Ripken Jr., B.J. Surhoff. There's Baldwin. He allowed a 2-out single to Roberto Alomar. Wasn't paying much attention to Alomar, who swiped second base in the first inning, but Rafael Palmeiro was retired on a pop-up, so the Orioles stranded a runner, and here they go with Bobby Bonilla, veteran outfielder, infielder. He came from the Chicago White Sox, Jeff. He went from the White Sox over to the Pittsburgh Pirates and really made a name for himself there in an outfield with Andy Van Slyke, Barry Bonds, but then moved over to the New York Mets, where you worked with him.
Yeah, we brought Bobby in, and they did a nice job. Boy, he had a tough time, though. He made a comment early in his career.
Strike 1 to Bobby Bonilla.
He came in and told the media, "You'll never wipe the smile off my face." Well, they proceeded to try to, and it was a very difficult and uncomfortable time for him.
Down the left field line, Bonilla is going to be on, leading off the inning for the Orioles, and he's going to stop with Tony Phillips tracking the ball for the White Sox. So Bonilla is on, and here comes the tying run to the plate, and Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah, John, Bobby Bonilla, just to show you something, and we see a replay, we'll see that he lifts his front leg now, and his timing has been all off. And when you lift your leg, either too soon or too late, you're in trouble. Watch him lift his right leg and get out there too soon. He broke the bat. That was a little flare to left field. His timing has just not been real good.
Yet he was strong enough to get the ball over the infield and get on base.
Real strong, yeah.
Bonilla takes his lead at first base now, and Cal Ripken Jr. sitting 273. Breaking ball for a strike from James Baldwin.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch Ripken, too. Cal Ripken, and if you stay around this game long enough, the game is a game of adjustments to keep you going. You might be hitting real well out of one stance one day, and then you're not a week later, and he's made adjustments throughout his career.
Baldwin stays with a breaking pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
As you watch Ripken now, he's standing with his bat semi against his shoulder. There have been times in the past where he held it flat on the top of his shoulder. There have been times when he's crouched. Earlier this year, he was pointing the bat back toward the catcher. Now he's got it on his shoulder, but his hands are low.
The count runs to 2 balls and a strike on Ripken.
And in 1991, he changed his stance and he started to crouch, and he started hitting the ball the other way more than he ever had before. But what a career he's had. He's just been a fantastic player, 2-time MVP.
Baldwin cut fastball and just missed the outside corner. Baldwin has thrown nothing but breaking pitches to Cal Ripken for a count of 3 balls and a strike.
John, that shot they just had on the camera, which was a great shot of the hands and where the bat was located. A lot of hitters just try to get to a position where they're comfortable, and you could see Cal just moving his hands slowly.
Foul ball back. Full count on Ripken.
And hitting is so much comfort. If you believe that you feel good and that you're in a comfort zone where you feel like you can hit every pitch, you got more than, what would Yogi say, 85% of the job done, and the other 50% is physical?
Or was it 90% of the game is half mental? 3-2 on Cal Ripken with a runner at first, nobody out. But Bonilla running, he'll have to reset. Bobby Bonilla led off the inning with a base hit.
John, I'll tell you what, a lot of the pitches that we have seen off both pitchers today have been fouled back, and that's a testimony to how hard they're throwing. That last pitch was right on Ripken's hands. That was 91 miles an hour from James Baldwin. And if you put that pitch where you want, it's very tough to get the head of the bat on that hard a fastball.
24-year-old James Baldwin looking for Bonilla at first base. Bobby is back in safely.
That's a very strange pickoff move. Baldwin just spun and went to throw that ball. It looked like he caught his left spike a little bit. Didn't stretch out and step all the way to first.
Bonilla runs on the infield. Snowpack, the third baseman, into foul territory. He made the catch, and for a moment didn't appear he had a good sight on the ball.
But that time Baldwin got over next to him, and he was looking at Chad Kruder, and he was looking at Snowpack, and he was going to make sure that he was over, telling him who was to get that ball.
You think something was said in the dugout between innings?
I guarantee you've seen it happen for both teams, and I guarantee when both teams got back to the dugout, they were told, hey, get over there and help them.
Former Milwaukee Brewer B.J. Surhoff is hitting .309 for the Orioles. 11 home runs and 33 RBIs. 1 on and 1 out for Baltimore. The White Sox are leading 2-0 here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. 1 ball and no strikes. Surhoff's numbers have been better, Jeff, since he moved from behind the plate.
Absolutely, John. I watched this kid. He came to work out with the Yankees before he went to the University of North Carolina. He was the best-looking young prospect I think I've ever seen work out with a major league club.
That's to Thomas, and his play will be at first base. Surhoff is out 3 unassisted, with Bobby Bonilla moving up to second.
But I started that story by saying that B.J. at that point was not a catcher. He was an infielder, third baseman or shortstop. Went to the University of North Carolina, caught and also played center field, then was a #1 pick in the country in his junior year. But he's a good player, strong, good hitter.
The catcher today for the Orioles is Greg Zahn. Rick Dempsey's nephew wears the number 24, the number Rick wore here so many years with the Baltimore Orioles. A .234 hitter with a homer and 7 driven in. Baldwin and Kruder having a little trouble getting together on the sign, and now they're ready. Strike 1, a fastball.
Well, if you notice that when Baldwin looked for the sign and they couldn't get together on it, you saw Baldwin wipe on the front of his shirt. When you see a pitcher wipe on his front of his shirt, he's usually adding 1 more pitch to the count. In other words, if he had called a fastball, he was adding to a curveball.
0-1 on Zahn. 0-2.
Wow, I'll tell you what, that was an 86-mile-an-hour slider, and you've heard the term backdoor. What backdoor means is that the pitcher has thrown the breaking ball on the other side of the plate from where the hitter's standing, as a right-handed pitcher would throw to a left-handed hitter. And if I would confuse you with this a different language, talking about rubs and signs, they can be very confusing. You want to make sure they're simple and you get them right.
1 ball and 2 strikes on Zahn. Did you ever have any problems when you were catching with the pitcher going one way or the other?
Yeah, I had problems with guys who couldn't see, who needed glasses and were too vain to use them. And all of a sudden they were taking potluck when I put the signs down. I never knew what they were throwing.
1 ball, 2 strikes. And that does it for the Orioles in the 2nd inning. Baldwin's first strikeout retires Greg Zahn. Frank Thomas, along with Tony Phillips and Ray Durham, will bat in the 3rd inning for the White Sox. And we'll be back to Camden Yards after these messages from your local station. Wonderful day in Baltimore, Maryland, and a big crowd on hand as usual for the Baltimore Orioles. Their home team is trailing the Chicago White Sox 2-0 as we move to the third inning. You know, Jeff, even when they had their long 21-game losing streak, what was it, the '88 season, the beginning of that campaign, the fans turned out in big numbers over at the old ballpark at Memorial Stadium.
This is a great town, great baseball town, and then they add this gem of a ballpark. This is just beautiful. It's wonderful.
Leadoff batter for Chicago is Tony Phillips. Top of the order now against Kent Merker. 1 ball and no strikes on Phillips.
You know, it's amazing what Tony Phillips has done. I give Sparky Anderson a lot of credit. When he signed as a free agent with the Tigers back in '89, he had been a utility player basically with Oakland, and he really has made himself some player.
Phillips is able to lay off. That was an inviting pitch just above the belt. 2 balls and no strikes. 0 for 1 today for Tony, and he's hitting .317. Throughout his career, he's been on base, Jeff, better than 40% of the time.
That's the amazing part. If you look at his stance, he looks like a softball hitter. His bat moves up and down, big hitch.
Out of play for Tony, 2 balls and 1 strike. Between innings, Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire, had cut his chin. Had to get some attention from the Oriole training staff. So he's behind the plate. Back in action.
You know how that can easily happen. You catch a foul ball off the mask, and it's right in the chin area. It's like somebody punched you.
On the outside corner, 2 balls and 2 strikes on Phillips.
But we were talking about Tony Phillips. He does so many things well. I mean, but the thing I think he helps a ball club, sure, all the things he does offensively, but he's got great fire in him. He's gotten angry a couple times this year, and the club has played very well afterwards.
Off speed, and the count 3 balls and 2 strikes. Phillips had a run in Milwaukee with a fan that cost him a fine from the American League office. No charges filed, though, after a hearing with the district attorney's office. And he admits he should not have gone from the clubhouse into the stands looking for trouble or behind the left field stands in Milwaukee. That's through the hole at short, and a base hit for Tony Phillips, leading off the third inning for Chicago.
But, John, you know, there's a big base hit. He makes things happen on the field, and you'll see it on the replay that he lifts his leg in time, drops his hands, and then just gets ahead of about right out on the ball. It's on the inner half of the plate, pulls it to left field. But by showing such energy, you know, the energy of going after a fan, I know that's not right, but his team responded. Another time he turned the food table over in Oakland, kicked things around. The ball club responded again. Clubs need a guy like that.
Ray Durham, second-year second baseman for the White Sox. 1 ball, no strikes on Durham. Phillips at first base with nobody out in the third inning. You see the numbers on Ray. Durham kind of swings from about 300 down into the 270s and gets hot again. That has been his track record. Tailed off toward the end of the season last year. Durham has a 2 ball, no strike count. The White Sox made a change in hitting coaches after last season. Walt Rooney had been the hitting instructor. He was there when you were managing, Jeff. And Bill Buckner, former star in the National League with the Dodgers and the Cubs, is the new hitting coach for the White Sox. In left field, Jeffrey Hammonds with a play, shades his eyes. He stayed with that nicely. 1 out. Ray Durham is retired on the fly ball to left. Clouds are starting to move in. At the start of the game, bright blue sky, but now a little more of a backdrop for the outfielders. Starting to cloud up. A chance of thunder showers here this afternoon.
John, we were talking about change of hitting coaches. A lot of people out there won't know the importance of the hitting coach. Walt Riniak did so much for me as a hitting coach. He did more off the field in the clubhouse, getting these guys prepared every night.
Frank Thomas takes ball 1. Frank Thomas, the first time up, got a single with 2 outs. That's the amazing thing about Frank. Frank had 2 strikes, got to a 3-2 count, and he acted as a leadoff hitter. Took something off his swing and got a base hit. 2 balls, no strikes.
Early in his career, Frank and I used to have some heart-to-heart talks as first father and surrogate son and then manager, but he would complain on a lot of pitches with his body language or the look on his face, and he stopped doing that, but he is very selective.
Thomas fouls off the 2-0 pitch, 2 balls and a strike. Jeff, the inside pitch on the corner, about knee high, a little bit above, that has always given him trouble.
He doesn't want to hit that at all, and that's the pitch I was going to say that when he and I would discuss things, I said, Frank, you cannot show the umpire that you are not very happy with every call on every pitch on the inner part of the plate, or you're not going to get any pitches called for you. And he said, absolutely, you're right. And he still doesn't like the ball inside.
Low to Thomas. 3 balls, 1 strike. This is an amazing note here on Frank Thomas. Now more than 2 games without reaching base safely in his career. It's amazing to most people, but not to Terry Bevington. He said if it's anybody else, he'd really be surprised. But he's grown to expect that from Frank Thomas.
You're right. It's hard to believe that's that.
Off-speed pitch, and Thomas takes ball 4. Merker very upset he didn't get a call on that. He thought it was in the strike zone.
Well, the pitch was very close, and it's interesting, if you watch Frank, you don't see this as, I didn't used to see this much in the past, but it looks like his rear end takes off, but he's still out there with his hands, and if he had to, he could have reached it. And that ball was a good call. That was a little bit low. But Frank is so big that even though the ball might have fooled him, he's so strong he can still hit the ball the other way with 1 hand like most people do with 2.
Lyle Mouton is a batter with 2 on, 1 out. Merker gets ahead of Lyle Mouton. Merker has been working behind 7 of the 12 batters faced up to this point. An 0-1 on Mouton, with Thomas taking the first walk of the day allowed by Merker. And Phillips is the runner at second. Mouton's numbers 1 for 1 with a double. Into left field, and that's going to drop for a hit. Tony Phillips is going to be held up at third base. A strong throw in from Jeffrey Hammonds, and the White Sox have the bases loaded with 1 out.
Well, John, this Lyle Mouton, you watch him day in and day out. For the fans out there are not aware, you are the voice of the White Sox, and you've watched this White Sox ball club, but Mouton is extremely strong. And here's another pitch, low and in. Now, that ball was not a bad pitch. That was a breaking ball down and in, and Mouton just threw the head of the bat out and hit the ball to left field.
Lyle Mouton came into the game with 74 at-bats. He's now 23 out of 76. He, like Snowpeck, they've had to be ready to come in. Chad Kruger's another, very limited duty. But when Ron Schuler put the White Sox club together, tried to go with veterans and Tony Phillips, Danny Tartabull. He got a quality defensive center fielder in Darren Lewis to try to complement Snowpeck. Roberto Martin, who's a role player just back from the disabled list, and Lyle Mouton.
Well, you're right, John. And before we were talking about how the pitching staff suffered last year, 95, without Jack McDowell. Lyle Mouton is the player they got for Jack McDowell. So he is beginning to really show some fruits of that trade.
Bases full, 1 out. Off speed to Tartabull. Tartabull hit a triple the first time up. He has 10 career grand slams. Eddie Murray and Harold Baines. And Harold Baines, Danny's teammate, one better than Danny Tartabull. Another off-speed pitch to the count. 2 balls, no strikes.
Now, this is a hitter's count. When we talk about a hitter's count, when there are 2 balls and no strike, now the hitter can look for the ball right in the middle of the plate, right where he wants it, or he won't swing at it. And that's Danny Tartabull is a cripple hitter. He'll hit the ball that is right where he wants it.
That's low for a 3-0 count, and no place to put Tartabull with Phillips at third, Thomas at second, and Mouton at first.
Now, Terry Bevington, as we talked before the game, likes to let a lot of his power hitters hit 3-0. It'll be interesting to see if he gives Danny Tartabull a green light, and he might very well do so because Danny's been struggling a little bit.
Tartabull did have the green light. This is Merker to Zahn, and no play at first base. 2 out.
Oh, my, that has got to kill you. Danny Tartabull's got a 3-0 hit sign with the bases loaded, and he hits a little dribbler about 10 feet in front of the mound. He's going to think about that all night.
He's going to think about that while Kent Merker is upset that he couldn't get the ball to Zahn quicker for a double play.
Here's a great shot from overhead, and you can see everything happen in the infield. The runner's gone. They're covering second base. Robbie Alomar, Palmeiro going to first, and Greg Zahn took that ball from Merker and quick turned. He was thinking about a from the pitcher home to first double play, but took a little while in developing.
Here's Snowpeck. 1 strike on Chris Snowpeck. So with the force play, the bases are loaded. Now they're 2 out. Tony Phillips was out at the plate, pitcher to the catcher. And Snowpeck is 0 for 1 today. Merker is trying to keep the score at 2-0 Chicago, while the White Sox are trying to break the game open early.
You know, very often when you get to a bases-loaded situation like that, even with one out, you think, well, they're going to score at least one. Just try to keep it down. Well, he's one out away from getting out of it.
Fastball strike. 0-2. Now he's one pitch away from getting out of it.
You know, John, I've been impressed with Merker today. I broadcast a game earlier in the year on the radio up in Milwaukee, and he wasn't throwing the ball well at all. He was just nibbling, and he didn't have much pop. He is throwing the ball hard, and he made some mistakes in that first inning in the middle of the zone, but he's throwing the ball much harder.
That's on the infield, foul territory, back toward the screen, and a play for Zahn. Zahn makes the catch. Snopek fouls out, and sure enough, Merker got out of the inning without any run scoring. The White Sox left the bases loaded. Coming up for the Orioles, 9-1-2, including Brady Anderson. 2-0 White Sox. Bottom half of the third inning, Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and the White Sox lead the Orioles 2-0. Along with Jeff Torborg, I'm John Rooney. And Ken Merker, he was a magician in getting out of a bases-loaded one-out situation. Tartabull and Snopek coming up. No run scored, Jeff.
No, that's a good shot at Pat Dobson. Pat Dobson was a good pitcher in his own right, a 20-game winner here. In fact, a 20-game winner with a staff that had 4 20-game winners here in Baltimore. But what he was doing was talking about what Merker did to get out of that. That was exceptional pitching, and I like Dobson going up to him. I also like to see a catcher walk up to his pitcher when that inning is over, say, "Atta, baby, nice going."
Danny Tartabull in the first inning was able to get a 2-run triple to make it 2-0 White Sox. But the second time around, Kent Merker won out. And a note on Tartabull. That's the 4th time this week Tartabull has made outs with the bases loaded. 3 times in one game against the Boston Red Sox earlier this week. Now it's Jeffrey Hammond's turn. The left fielder for the Baltimore Orioles leads off the third. Tries to get his club back into the game, and James Baldwin has allowed just 1 hit in each of the first 2 innings. 1 ball and no strikes on Hammond.
John, Jeffrey Hammonds is a kid I saw and just watched him grow up. He went to Scotch Plains High School, the next town over from where I was raised.
A drive into left field. Tony Phillips flips the glasses down, and at the warning track makes the catch. Let's go to Chip Carey for an update in our studios in Hollywood.
Okay, John and Jeff, Tom Urbani just came over from the Cardinals this morning. He serves up his first American League Gopher ball, the 101st surrendered by the Tigers this year. Bernie Williams with the honors in the top of the third, his 9th of the year. The Tigers, though, still have the lead 4-2, but lose Travis Fryman. He injured his foot.
All right, Chip, last night the Tigers won in the 9th inning and lead today. Brady Anderson hits it fair down the right field line. Over in the corner, it's Danny Tartabull. Anderson's going for 2. And he's going to make it with no problem. The throw sailed over second base, and Chris Snopek backed it up.
Well, that kind of shot inside the line, getting a little action going, getting the fans into it could really help this Baltimore club. As you can see, Brady Anderson lifts his leg just as though Bobby Bonilla does, but a little earlier, and he's able to get the head of the bat out. That ball goes inside first base, hits something along the wall, and bounces back toward the field a little bit. And Danny Tartabull's throw flies way over second base. But Brady Anderson is the type of guy like Tony Phillips who can ignite things for a ball club. And one of the things you don't hear it so much in baseball, but you do like to get the home fans into the game with you.
And this can be such an advantage to get 47,000 fans behind a ball club. Strike 1 to Polonia with a runner at second base and 1 out. Brady Anderson has 13 doubles now as you look at Luis Polonia. Brady last year had 33 doubles, 16 home runs. Foul on the first base side.
Now that was a good breaking ball from James Baldwin. Now, one of the things you try to do, Luis Polonia is a type of hitter who sprays the ball the other way very well. He can turn on the ball and hit it up the alley, but he likes the fastball out over the plate a little bit. If you keep breaking stuff down and in and pound him hard on his letters, it takes him away from his game a little bit.
The runner at second base, Brady Anderson. You see the red dot in the Fox box indicating the runner is at second. That got away from Baldwin. 1 ball, 2 strikes, but he didn't want to make a mistake on 0-2.
Absolutely. Now that's a curveball, a big curveball. Anybody has a big curveball like that very often has time controlling the thing, especially when he's trying to overthrow it. Now in that situation, he wanted to make sure that ball was way down. He didn't even mind if he bounced it.
The red dot at second base indicates Brady Anderson is the runner for the Orioles. Anderson breaks. And he'll go back to second base. He had third base in his back pocket, but a foul ball by Polonia. A 1-ball, 2-strike count.
Well, I'll tell you something, John. He better have third base in his back pocket. He got a left-handed hitter up there. It's easy for the catcher to take the ball and throw it down to the third baseline, but he must have known that he had a great jump and he was going to make it, because it's much easier for the catcher to throw to third base with a left-handed hitter at the plate. And what I was saying before about the curveball, when you try to pull it down so hard, sometimes you let it slip out of your hands and ends up way high.
Brady Anderson back to second base. A count 1-ball, 2 strikes on Polonia with 1 out. Back to and over the screen into the crowd below us.
Boy, that was a hack. That ball was about chin to nose high, and Polonia was looking. He liked that fastball look, and he went for it. Luis Polonia has been a good hitter throughout his career. He's a pesky type of hitter. Once he gets on, he can steal bases. You know, a couple times in his career, he's been a big number base steal guy. And right now, he's just trying to put this ball in play.
Polonia is hitting .250 right now. .293 career hitter in the majors coming into this season. Out of play, off to the left. This spoils off another pitch from Baldwin. Concerning the Orioles running, with Alomar getting a steal in the first inning, and now with Anderson's big jump, and as you said, he'd better have third base with a wide open view from the catcher and a left-hander up there. What are they seeing in Baldwin? They must have something down in his timing to be that confident when running.
I think they do. You know, most teams will use a stopwatch, and each team, these two teams do it from the dugout. They use a stopwatch in the Oriole dugout with Andy Etchebarren. So what they're really doing is probably seeing that James Baldwin either falls asleep or is slow to the plate.
That's to Thomas. He'll take it to first unassisted, and Brady Anderson moves to third, 2 out. Luis Polonia grounds out. Roberto Alomar, he has a base hit in the first inning. He's hitting better than 400, 411 right now, and I asked him about hitting 400 and thinking about it.
I'm not thinking about it. I'm just going out there and having some fun, and that's the main thing. I'd rather hit 250 or 300 and win a championship than hitting 400 and not go to the playoffs. So right now, I'm not thinking about the 400. I'm just thinking about going out there and doing my job and help the team to get to another level.
Now you might be thinking at home, oh, sure, that's the standard company line. Strike 1 to Roberto Alomar here. He really means that. He has been working so much during the week on turning double plays at second base, working on every aspect of his game, including his hitting.
Oh, I agree. I think he believes it. I don't think he'd want to hit 250, but
no. A little bit low this time, 1 ball and 1 strike.
But the point he was making is that he's a team player and he wants his team to win. But he's hit, going into this year, he'd hit 4 consecutive 300 seasons or better. He's just such a good hitter.
Out of play down the left field line, and count 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You know,
some in Toronto may argue, Jeff, that he's a team player because of what happened after their back-to-back World Championship seasons, where he became moody and sat out the last week of the season to protect 300 last year.
I'm glad you mentioned that, John. There was a lot happening up there. That girl had a gun in that hotel looking for him last year. That's got to take its toll on your mental state.
Alomar stays alive on a high pitch from Baldwin. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And for the people out there don't remember, a young lady was arrested in the Sky Dome Hotel where Robbie Alomar stayed with a gun, told somebody there she was going to shoot him. I mean, all of a sudden it's a life or death situation, not a ball game. And he was last year was not a good year for that organization up there, and they were unhappy at the end of the season what Robbie was doing. But remember, this guy's played hurt a lot in his career too.
2 balls, 2 strikes. This is a good battle going on between Roberto Alomar, batting .411, and rookie pitcher James Baldwin.
Well, that ball was 93 miles an hour, and I hope we're not overdoing the miles per hour idea, but what we're trying to show you fans out there is that somebody can get the ball up there that fast. It's awful tough to get the head of the bat out on it.
Just outside, Baldwin stared in, wanting the call from Brian O'Nora. 3 balls and 2 strikes on Alomar.
The harder you throw the ball to the plate, the quicker the hitter has to adjust, and the more it makes his other pitches more effective. So that's why we're harping on the fact that both these pitchers have been throwing very well, at least from their fastball standpoint.
Out of play, off to the left, and the count holds at 3-2. And if Roberto Alomar gets on base, Palmeiro will bat. Alomar represents the tying run. Last night he hit his 10th home run of the year, the first inning, tying the score. And that was after Polonia had been retired on a beautiful play we showed our fans earlier in the game by Darren Lewis. And that play by Lewis certainly turned things around where Alex Fernandez didn't have to pitch from behind. In right field, Alomar with a base hit, and he drives in Brady Anderson.
Well, John, there's one of the reasons why he's hitting over 400. They tried to bust him hard up 2 pitches before that base hit, and he took the pitch. Then they tried to throw a slider to him. He took it again. And then they threw the ball down low in the middle of the plate, and he just turned on it and hit it to right field. Beautiful swing. Look at him stay back and get the head of the bat way out in front of him.
You're right, Jeff. It's like it wasn't served up about belt high or between the knees and the belt. Alomar with terrific concentration found the hole between Durham and Thomas. And Mike Pasick, the White Sox pitching coach, is on the mound with Chad Kruder and James Baldwin. The Orioles have 2 outs in the third. Their cleanup hitter, Rafael Palmeiro, coming up to try to pick up Roberto Alomar, who just drove in his 49th run this season.
Now, Mike Pasick went out at the behest of Terry Bevington. Terry went out, and he's trying to calm the young pitcher down. He's also telling him, now, don't fall asleep with Alomar at first base. Remember the last time he took a jump on you and took off for second base and just walked in there. You've got to be careful here. But it's a trip like that out to the mound with nobody warming up in the bullpen. It's just one of those things to settle him down, tell him what the situation is.
I think Pasick is another of the differences and reasons why the White Sox pitching is better this year, Jeff. Last year, the White Sox had 3 pitching coaches. And after such a bad start, Jackie Brown got caught in the whirlwind and was released. A step off by Baldwin before the first pitch to Rafael Palmeiro. Palmeiro popped out to Ozzie Guillen, ending the first inning for the O's.
Now, that step off is a sign given from the bench to the catcher. You can see Chad Kruder looking in. And now they might step off again. They might slide step, might pitch out.
Palmeiro takes in the dirt, blocked by Kruder.
When the catcher in this situation where the White Sox is looking in the dugout, he's not looking for pitch selection. He's looking to see how they're going to defend against Robbie Alomar, who's at first base, and it's Joe Nosick giving the signs out of the dugout.
1 ball, no strikes. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Okay, now, that was the slide step. That's what they call a quick step. James Baldwin did not lift his left leg. He just kind of slid it toward the plate. You don't want to do that too often. Now, there's Joe Nosick giving the signs to Chad Kruder. Chad Kruder then relays them to James Baldwin.
Alomar kept dancing around at first base. An off-speed pitch, 76 miles an hour, 2 balls and a strike.
I don't like that. Now, there was a quick step or a slide step, 2 pitches in a row. That can really throw a pitcher off, and especially if he's throwing a changeup. Yeah, with a fastball, you can get away with it, but one of the things you don't want to do with a young pitcher is take him out of his game.
On the outside corner, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Now, you could see how that was a normal delivery, lifted his left leg and threw a bullet strike on the outside part of the plate. Now, the difference in the 2 pitches, you'll see here, he lifts his leg now, and now he drives to the plate. That is his natural delivery. That's why I don't like to see that slide step too much.
Alomar wasn't that far off first base, and what Baldwin was trying to do is show Alomar he's thinking about it.
Yes. I like to see it once in there for a good base runner early in the count to plant the seed. But the most important thing for a young pitcher to do is to get the hitter out.
2 outs. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Palmeiro. Tying run at first base, Roberto Alomar. Deep into right field. This is going to be a foul ball. Home run distance, but a foul ball for Palmeiro. And Jeff, on the last pitch, Alomar was going back to first base.
He sure was, John, and one of the reasons we were just talking about the slide step. That was another slide step. You got a young pitcher. We just said how hard he threw the ball out of the regular delivery. Look at this. Didn't even lift his leg. That ball almost went out of the ballpark. You cannot throw the ball as hard flat-footed, and you cannot mess with a young pitcher's delivery too much, and I think that's a mistake. I really, you know, when I was in the dugout, one of the things I never wanted to do was try to make a pitcher do something he shouldn't be doing or that he couldn't do effectively.
And here's Baldwin still trying to feel his way along and into Major League Baseball after having such a rough start last year. Alomar goes, and Palmeiro strikes out, leaving Alomar on base. On the inning, the Orioles picked up a run, a double by Anderson, and an RBI single by Alomar, who is 2 for 2. We played through 3. The White Sox lead the Orioles 2-1. Well, the fans are having some fun out on Utah Street today, trying to stay cool here on this hot day in Baltimore. We have a good ball game from Camden Yards, a 2-1 score. And talking about somebody trying to stay cool, James Baldwin coming off the field, standing out there in the bright sunshine. Herm Schneider, the White Sox trainer, with the towels. Pitchers use different ways to try to stay cool, try to pace themselves on a hot day like this. My partner on radio in Chicago, Ed Farmer, was talking last night that he used to like to come in, take off his jersey, his undershirt, change the undershirt, and then put the jersey in the dryer and get a different jersey out. Do that routine about every 2 innings to try to keep that weight off.
Yeah, it's very important, because if you're wearing a cotton T-shirt underneath, it gets very heavy.
Chad Kruger lines it to left field. Jeffrey Hammonds with a one-hand catch. 1 pitch and 1 out.
And John, it's very important to think about the heat out here, because you're also keeping pitch count. You're thinking, okay, now James Baldwin just had a long inning. He gave up. He threw 24 pitches in that inning. Was in trouble. Go in there. You want to make him cool off and hopefully let him sit there a little bit. Now Kruger just hit the first pitch, so you're hoping, if you're Terry Bevington, that Darren Lewis will take a couple pitches here.
Darren Lewis lined out to center field the first time. Merker falls behind, 1 ball and no strikes. Darren Lewis is 0 for 1. His average has dropped to 267. The count, 2 balls and no strikes. Several of the White Sox batters, several hitters, period, in Major League Baseball will drop the bat, trying to draw the attention from third base. Might buy them a little more room to hit to the left side.
Absolutely. They're going to take the pitch anyway, so why not do that? Maybe pull the infielder in. You're right.
Lewis right back through the middle, and he's on base. The 6th hit for the White Sox, a 1-out single for Darren Lewis.
Well, that was a pitch up in the strike zone, and Darren Lewis just kind of fought it off. He didn't hit it real hard, but he just hit the ball enough to right center field that he's got himself a base hit.
Darren Lewis will do some running. He has 11 steals and 12 opportunities. The team speed for the White Sox, you'd say it's less than average, wouldn't you, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so. Now, Ozzie doesn't run the way he used to. Ray Durham can run. He's a youngster, and Tony Phillips can still run. Darren Lewis can run. But not every club is swift all the way through their lineup.
Ozzie game with a bunt foul.
John, I just noticed something with Ozzie's stance from this perspective. He's got a different type of stance than I've ever seen him use before. It's an open stance. When we talk about an open stance, it's when a left-handed hitter stands with his right foot down toward the first base line. And what it does a lot of times is make sure that the hitter starts open, but he dives into the ball a little bit. And you can see Ozzie now, of course, this is a fake bunt here, or a bunt attempt, I should say. And what he's trying to do is get a head start out of the box and drop the ball down the third base line. But look at the open stance.
Go over to first base. 2 things on this. Merker was looking to see if Ozzie was going to bunt again, and shorten the lead just a little bit, perhaps, for Darren Lewis. Guillen has made just a couple of changes, including moving out of the batter's box, maybe?
Yeah. He's behind that white line. They try to obliterate that line as quickly as they can and get back as far as they can, so it makes the fastball slower. They're farther away. Lewis is running, and he'll have to get back. Cal Ripken is under it, and Ripken makes the catch. Lewis is back at first safely. Well, that was a fastball, and Ozzie loves high fastballs, but that was just a little bit too high. That was above the letters, and it's awful tough to get on top of a fastball that is anywhere from 88 to 90 miles an hour and hit it cleanly to the outfield. Ken Merker will go after Tony Phillips. Okay, there goes the runner at first base, and Ozzie Guillen pops the ball up and fires the bat down. He's angry with himself for having swung at a bad pitch. Darren Lewis is safe at first base. He singled with 1 out. He's at first base with 2 outs now, and Tony Phillips in there. But a lot of hitters, and Ozzie included, I don't care if you're a veteran or not, knows out of the corner of his eye that the base runner is running for second base, and he wants to make something happen, and he gets excited and swings at a bad pitch. Now they move to first base with Darren Lewis in safely. And that was almost a balk. When you look at a left-handed pitcher throwing the ball to first base, you are, by the rule book, supposed to step toward first base. Merker on that pitch stepped closer to home plate and then quickly walked off so the umpires didn't see it.
You see the red dot at first base. That indicates Darren Lewis is the runner there for the White Sox with 2 outs. There's a strike on Tony Phillips. It's always important for a pitcher when his team scores to go back out and hold the other team scoreless. Merker was 1 out away from doing that. Darren Lewis got a base hit, and then Ozzie Guillen was out with the White Sox trying to start something.
Very good point, John. That's one of the big things in the mental side of this, and a roller coaster of emotions. If your club scores, you go out and shut the other team down. You get them back in the dugout and get them going again.
Line drive to Alomar. And that's it for Phillips and the White Sox in the top of the 4th. A hit, 1 left on, 5 stranded by the White Sox. Bonilla, Ripken, and Surhoff will be coming up for the Orioles, who trail the White Sox 2-1. We're looking at the Cal Ripken family, and this is such a great baseball setting here, Jeff. So many families out, and last year we were fortunate enough to call Cal Ripken's record-setting game when he broke Lou Gehrig's Ironman record. And to have Cal's father here, he hadn't been at the ballpark in Baltimore for some time. But I had some of the White Sox players tell me last night that this is baseball. Bobby Bonilla leading off, fouls it away.
I agree with you, John. That evening when he broke the record last year and made that victory lap around, I don't think has ever been done in baseball before. And it was one of the key ingredients to turning last year's season around after the labor problems.
Foul ball back to the screen. It was such a wild year last year for Cal Ripken. But we're going to hear in just a while from Cal talking about what it has been like. It has been kind of a victory tour, if you will, around Major League Baseball since that night.
But nobody could have handled it any better or as well probably as he did. I think it was beautiful. The nice part is Billy Ripken's back with him on the Orioles now.
O'Neill off the end of the bat. Foul ball, Snowpeck. Got to the bag just before the ball hit third base. Foul ball, and back to the plate, Bobby Bonilla. Cal Ripken Jr. will be next, and then B.J. Surhoff. Bonilla has a base hit to his credit for the game, batting average at .264. And he has had some problems with his hitting, and he credited the problems, or attributed the problems, to being a designated hitter, being moved from the outfield to DH.
Yeah, Bobby didn't like DHing at all, coming over from the National League, and when he wasn't hitting, he said that was the reason. Whether it was or not, it never sounds good coming out and saying, oh, the reason I'm not hitting is because I'm going to a different position or I'm helping the club or something. It doesn't look good, even though maybe that might be the cause. And I think Bobby will come out of this.
Outside to Bobby Bonilla, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
But Davey Johnson has given him the opportunity to go back to the outfield and play. Now, DHing is not easy. I've got to admit that some of the great hitters I've seen said it's tough.
2 balls, 2 strikes from Bonilla.
They say it's tough to make the adjustment of not knowing what to do in between at-bats instead of going to your position.
There's Bonilla in the last couple of weeks. Foul ball out of play, 1 ball and 2 strikes. So by going back to the outfield, his hitting has picked up, and maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, I knew he had an outstanding West Coast swing. Davey Johnson told me yesterday he hasn't been really crushing the ball like Bobby can, but he's a streak hitter. But he is coming out of it.
Right back to Baldwin, and a nice catch by the White Sox pitcher. And Bobby Bonilla is out. And with Cal Ripken coming up, I asked him yesterday, has this been a more normal year after his record-setting year of 1995?
Last year was a little bit abnormal. I mean, the focus, especially around September 5th, September 6th, really, changed. I kind of surrendered to that whole concept, and I tried to do all the interviews I could to try to make it as least distracting to your normal plan as you can. But, it was a great experience to go through, but I'm kind of glad it's back to normal again.
Ripken takes a breaking pitch low from James Baldwin, 1 out, and nobody on base for the Orioles. .272 average for Cal Ripken, who had been struggling up until the last couple of weeks. In left field, the play for Tony Phillips. There are 2 outs. Bonilla is grounded out, and Ripken flies out.
You know what I was thinking about, John, when we were just looking at Ripken's family? Remember the thing that he said and what he did the morning of the night that he broke the record? He took his daughter to school.
Right.
He got up real early. He couldn't sleep all night. I mean, that's the kind of guy this is, a real family guy. And you were talking about the family atmosphere. That's what baseball is all about. And a lot of people try to poo-poo it, put this game down. But that really, day games, families, it's great.
1 ball, no strikes to count on B.J. Surhoff. Chuck Thompson, the Hall of Fame announcer for the Orioles, works on the Royal Radio Network from time to time and worked with us on the national radio last year in the 5th inning. He was saying the next day, with the huge reception and the parade and everything in the Inner Harbor, Cal Ripken was so taken by the long standing ovation. They just kept going and going. He finally said, I just don't know what I can do to make this any better. The count, 1 ball, no strikes. Or make that 2 balls, no strikes on B.J. Surhoff. But somebody yelled out, hey, Cal, how about a lap around the Inner Harbor? 3 balls, no strikes on B.J. Surhoff.
Well, I have never sat through anything like that.
It seemed like 5 minutes. It lasted more than 20.
And they cheered the whole time. He went around, he shook hands, he kissed people he knew.
3 balls and a strike.
It's a good thing he knew him, right?
Yes.
But it was great. His mom and dad were out there, and some of his ex-teammates.
Well, you were taken by that.
Oh, boy.
The foul ball back, 3 balls and 2 strikes. And what did that remind you of, though, that whole moment when Cal Ripken set the record and they brought the number down indicating that he broke Lou Gehrig's mark that was hanging on the wall in right field?
Well, I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of my own dad, and he's gone now.
A strikeout. B.J. Surhoff is the 3rd strikeout for James Baldwin. And 1, 2, 3 go the Orioles in the 4th inning. The White Sox have Ray Durham, Frank Thomas, and Lau Mouton batting in the 5th inning. 2-1 in favor of the White Sox over the Orioles. It's a warm, sunny Saturday afternoon in Baltimore, Maryland, with the White Sox leading the Orioles 2-1. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without express written consent. The White Sox are batting in their half of the 5th inning, and it's 2, 3, and 4 in the order, beginning with Ray Durham. And time kind of stands still when you're in this park, doesn't it, Jeff? Seems to me. I mean, it's a wonderful afternoon. Ray Durham takes a ball, 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, the great part is the way they designed this ballpark. This is a brand new ballpark as of '92, but its design is like it's an old park.
1 ball and 1 strike. As you heard the strike call from Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire. Well, became America's pastime. Fans forgetting their troubles, going out to the ballpark, enjoying the day, their friends, and the ball game. On the inside corner.
Now look at the shot of this park. It's just a beautiful place, and they kept that big warehouse in right field, and there didn't used to be anything down here but big old warehouses.
And the clock you saw a moment ago is above the scoreboard in center. That's fisted into left center field. And Ray Durham is on with Frank Thomas coming to bat.
Well, that was a good call, John, because that shows that Merker's got good stuff, because he got the ball right on Durham's hands, and he just kind of forced it out with that release. He released with his top hand, as you see, and then the ball just floated out over Cal Ripken's head. But that sometimes you have to tell your pitchers sometimes. They get frustrated by say, hey, listen, the reason for that is you got pretty good stuff.
A slow breaking pitch into Frank Thomas.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things you've got to do is try to keep Frank off balance. But if you get to a point where he's looking for a breaking ball, he's one of the best breaking ball hitters in the game.
Well, Frank Thomas, Albert Bell, Barry Bonds, don't make mistakes to these, or they'll hit the ball a long way. To the 3rd baseman, Surhoff gets the force at second and the double play. The ball wasn't hit that hard, but Surhoff to Alomar to Palmeiro. Durham and Thomas are doubled up. A very close play at second.
It was, and it shows the quick feet of Robbie Alomar. This is quite a play. It looks routine, but it is not routine. The ball is slow as you see it coming off the bat. BJ makes sure he makes a good throw. Now look how quick Robbie's feet are. Bounce right off, and then turns the ball and throws it to first base and gets Frank by a couple steps.
And Durham did his best, sliding to the inside part of the bag, trying to break up the double play, and couldn't. Very well turned. Lau Mouton is the batter. He's 2 for 2. Low curveball and a strike. Mouton doubled and scored in the 1st inning, got a base hit, and was left on in the 3rd. His average is over the 300 mark now. And he is still in a groove. A 3 for 3 day for Lau Mouton. He's not trying to muscle up and hit the ball out. And throwing behind the runner, Mouton is safe at first base. Brady Anderson decided to throw the ball back into Palmeiro. But Mouton has a nice, easy swing and is hitting line drives. And he has 6 hits in his last 6 at-bats.
I saw the 3 at-bats up against the Red Sox, and of course was taken out of the game when they switched pitchers to a right-hander and Harold Baines came in. But that's a nice platoon situation that Terry Bevington has to work with.
Big swing and a miss by Danny Tartabull, who tripled in the 2 White Sox runs of the first inning and then ran into more bases-loaded trouble. We told you when he was up with the bases loaded, he had 10 career grand slams, but this week has managed to leave 12 men on base in those situations.
Well, it's amazing that Danny is really struggling the way he is. Last year, for an example, with the Yankees, he only hit 224 before he was traded to Oakland. He hit 261. When he first went over to the Yankees in 1993, his average was down 250, but he had 31 home runs and drove in 102 runs.
1 ball and 1 strike on Tartabull. Out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes, and a souvenir for the fans just below us. Saw Danny's father, Jose, play for the Kansas City A's. He later played for the Boston Red Sox. Wasn't the big, strong power hitter, Danny Tartabull.
No, he was lean and he ran real well. He was a good defensive player, stole some bases.
Parker with a pickoff move. Mouton is safe. Mouton is not a real base-stealing threat. He has 1 steal without being caught.
You know, Danny Tartabull, when he went over the Yankees, a lot of people said, well, the reason the Yankees signed him was because the Mets signed Bonilla, and that a right-handed hitter shouldn't be in Yankee Stadium.
That's toward the shortstop. Cal Ripken throws out Danny Tartabull. 2 hits in the inning, a double play, and only 1 left. Zon Hammonds and Brady Anderson are coming up for the Orioles, and they trail the White Sox 2-1.
Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Genuine Chevrolet, the cars more Americans trust. By Zantac 75, the final word in acid relief. By 7-Eleven, oh thank heaven for 7-Eleven. And by Rogaine, the only product medically proven to regrow hair for men and women.
Terrific Saturday afternoon to be in Baltimore, Maryland. You saw the aquarium in the Inner Harbor. You're looking at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. With Jeff Torborg, I'm John Rooney. The White Sox lead the Orioles 2-1. And it's a hot day here, and we told you players have different ways to stay cool in the hot weather. How about this from Chad Kruger, Jeff?
He takes his catcher's helmet out of the cooler. Now, is there a saying about cooler heads will prevail?
I hope they do.
Tell you what he should have done was a couple of those ice cubes in there when he put it back on.
I imagine there were a couple of ice cubes in there. How did you stay cool on hot days, especially those hot days in St. Louis, Cincinnati?
I didn't. I was a real emotional, uptight type of guy who was gung-ho. I never stayed very cool.
This is Greg Zahn with a fly ball left center field. Darren Lewis down with the glasses. 1 pitch and 1 out in the 5th inning. Fox's riveting new drama, L.A. firefighters. Hammond showing bunt takes a strike.
John, what I was trying to say was I was not a cool player.
Here's a high pop back of the plate. And if Kruger had any ice left in the helmet, it has melted by now as he threw his mask away and the helmet's on the ground. But our crew thinks you're very cool, Jeff.
Well, I'm trying to be cool, but as a player, I wasn't cool. I was really, I got into the games. We wore those old flannels.
You were the same way as a manager.
Yeah, I couldn't sit still. I mean, guys sit on the bench and manage. I couldn't. I had to walk around. Remember the time I had that rubber jacket? I was superstitious. We had a winning streak going to wear rubber jacket. Almost died from the heat.
Hard hit through the hole at short into left, a base hit for Jeffrey Hammonds. The Orioles have the tying run on in the 5th inning with 1 out. Before Brady Anderson bats, let's go back to Hollywood to Chip Carey for an update.
Okay, John and Jeff, no lead is ever safe at Tiger Stadium. Detroit with the worst ERA in baseball, and Tom Urbani's starting to give up the long ball. Matt Howard hit his first Major League homer earlier in the inning. Then in the 5th, Bernie Williams, his second of the day. It's now an 8-4 Tiger game in the 5th. Back to John and Jeff in Baltimore.
Okay, Chip, and you know that the Baltimore Oriole players are looking at the scoreboard in right field here, and they note that Detroit has a lead over the Yankees today. Ball 1 to Brady Anderson, and here are the standings in the American League East with the New York Yankees beginning play today. 1 game better than the Orioles and the Blue Jays, 8.5 games out. 8-5 now in favor of Detroit. Foul ball to the screen for Brady Anderson. Tino Martinez hit a home run for New York, so it's 8-5 Detroit at Tiger Stadium in the middle point of that game.
This should be a nice run, John, right down through the end of the season when you got the White Sox playing so well. You got the Indians playing so well, the Yankees in Baltimore. Seattle is struggling because their pitching. Randy Johnson is out, but where does a wild card come from? It might come from the two teams we're seeing today.
A ball high, 2 balls and a strike. Can Texas hold on in the heat?
Good question. I don't know. They're getting better pitching than they thought they would, and they can really put the hammer on you offensively. Johnny Oates and Doug Melvin, the general manager and manager, have really done terrific job down there with that organization. Changed the whole philosophy.
On the fastball, a 2-ball, 2-strike count. Brady Anderson doubled and scored the Oriole run in the 3rd. And Baldwin is trying to get through the 5th inning here, facing Anderson with 1 on and 1 out. Baldwin has the advantage right now in a 2-1 lead. The White Sox about hit the Orioles by a score or by a count of 8-5. And the red dot at first base indicates Jeffrey Hammonds is the runner there for the Orioles. Three balls and 2 strikes on Brady.
You know, John, we've been talking all day about the heat here, and when we look at the radar gun readings, both these pitchers, even though it's very hot, are still throwing the ball as hard as they were in the beginning of the ball game, which is a good sign for both ball clubs.
Runner goes, and that's ball 4. Jeffrey Hammond stops at second base with the base on balls to Brady Anderson. And the walk is the first allowed by Baldwin in 4 1/3 innings. Now the Orioles have something going. First and second, 1 out. A number 2 hitter, Luis Poloni, is stepping up.
And with that walk, John, the White Sox bullpen starts to get into action. And of course, as we've been talking the whole game about pitch count, on a day like today, it's very important for a pitching coach to keep the pitch count, especially when it's this hot and you've got a young hard thrower on the mound.
Larry Thomas, a left-hander, begins to warm up, and right-hander Brian Kaiser joins him in the White Sox bullpen. The conference on the mound, but Mike Pasick making another visit.
And there was a shot of Terry Bevington sitting in the dugout making notes to himself. He and the pitching coach, you can see he's got his lineup card making little notes on it, and now he's studying the lineup card as to what Davy Johnson has over in his dugout that he can come off the bench with, and also what Terry Bevington has in the bullpen. That's why he's got both a left-hander and a right-hander up out there.
Some around baseball wondered if Terry Bevington was going to blow out his bullpen the first couple of months of the season, as Terry had to use his pitchers so much through the first 2 or 3 weeks playing on the West Coast against Seattle, California, and taking on some of the contending teams, Texas Rangers included in that schedule. Ball 1 to Luis Polonia, but Terry Bevington monitors pitch count closely. He said that he feels his pitchers are going to be as fresh as any pitchers in baseball come August and September.
Terry has great baseball instincts. Having managed when he was coaching for me, I was very impressed with him.
A ball and a 2-0 count on Luis Polonia. 1 out in the Orioles' 5th inning. Tying run at second base, Jeffrey Hammonds. Brady Anderson at first. Davy Johnson on the Oriole bench. First-year manager of the Orioles. Played in 4 World Series. Second baseman for Baltimore. In left field, Tony Phillips on the run toward the corner. He makes the catch. Hammonds back to second, and he's going to hold on at second base as Polonia flies out. Roberto Alomar comes up with a chance to tie the game or to give the Orioles the lead.
Now here's the shot to left field. When that ball was initially hit, Tony Phillips had a feeling it might carry over his head, and he really busted back on that ball. He got a real good jump. And you know, it's amazing. Tony Phillips has been an infielder. Now, he's played all over this field, but it's not easy to keep switching positions. This guy is a terrific little athlete.
Sparky Anderson told me one year in Detroit, now Tony's going to play third base, a little bit at second. We're going to keep him in the infield. He will not be in the outfield. This is in spring training. Late in spring training, head to Lakeland. Tony's in left field, leading off. Roberto Alomar hitting at .413 now. 1 ball and no strikes. Hammonds is the tying run, Anderson the go-ahead run, and keep in mind, Alomar can hit for power. He has hit 10 long balls, including a first-inning home run last night. That's a ball, 2 balls and no strikes. And James Baldwin is trying to get through this 5th inning with the lead to be eligible for his 6th win.
Now, James is really up there also in pitch count. And you can see how Roberto is just, you know, he's so consistent a player. And you can see what he does month by month. He doesn't really change his game.
There's a strike in the count, 2 balls and 1 strike.
Now, Baldwin being up in the count, now, even though he's popping the glove at low 90s, when you get a little tired as a pitcher, you don't necessarily lose your stuff. You lose your command, and you get around the plate more.
2 balls, 1 strike on Alomar. 2 on and 2 out. Out of play down the left field line. New baseball out to James Baldwin, who has walked 1. That first walk came in this inning to Brady Anderson. Roberto Alomar started with the San Diego Padres. His father was a coach with the Padres at the time.
And he and his brother and his father all were in the All-Star game in 1990 in Wrigley Field, yes.
The red dots indicate runners at first and second for the Orioles. Right back to the pitcher. Alomar is retired. Baldwin to Thomas, leaving Hammonds and Anderson on base in the 5th. So we've passed the halfway point in the game with the Chicago White Sox leading in Baltimore 2-1. Beautiful day to be at the ballpark in Baltimore with the White Sox leading the Orioles 2-1. It's a hot Saturday afternoon. The fans enjoying themselves here. The attendance has been announced at 47,634. That's the 6th largest crowd to see Oriole baseball at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Chris Snopek is ready to face Merker, and here we go in the 6th inning. 1 ball and no strikes. Snopek is 0 for 2. He is fouled out twice to the catcher Greg Zahn. Batting average is .218. Foul ball on the right side, and out of play back in the stands for a souvenir.
John, we've seen an awful lot of balls fouled back or popped up, and that gives you a pretty good indication the 2 pitchers have good stuff. And it also can indicate that hitters are chasing bad high fastballs, but I think it really indicates that these pitchers both have been throwing very well today.
Ken Merker on the mound for the Orioles. Inside pitch grounded to Surhoff. 1 out. Merker got all of his outs in the 5th inning on ground balls. Frank Thomas hit into a double play. Danny Tartable grounded out to end the inning, and Snopek grounds out, leading off the 6th. Here's Chad Kruger. He has hit line drives the first 2 times up to Ripken and to left field for Hammonds.
Well, I think the fact that Mike Flanagan, who had been the pitching coach here with the Orioles last year, went down and suggested to Merker that he might have the same situation in his arm that Flanagan had back in 1980. I think that might have been the key to this, possibly the whole season for the Orioles. They need Merker to be successful.
Outside, off-speed pitch on the very first offering to Chad Kruger here in the 6th inning. Can't call it a changeup on the first pitch, can I?
No, what does it change up from?
That's
You're right. Yeah. But, you know, it's interesting. He started, and it could be the catcher. Their whole philosophy has changed. Last inning, they started every hitter off with a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch.
That's in for a strike at about 69, 70 miles an hour.
Well, the whole key, you can just watch big hitters take batting practice. The batting practice pitcher, all he has to do is change a little speed, and the guy doesn't hit the ball as well. The idea in pitching is to keep the hitter off balance.
1 ball, 1 strike. In short right field, Alomar goes out. Here comes Bonilla. Alomar can't make the play. Bonilla grabs it on a hop. Chad Kruger is on with 1 out.
Now, John, that was that in-between play. That was another jam shot, headed to right field, and Robbie Alomar looked up for a minute and saw Bobby Bonilla coming at him. And you got to remember that Bobby weighs about 250, and I think just for that split second, it held Robbie off his stride just a little bit. If Bobby hadn't been close, I think Robbie would have caught that ball. 1 on and 1 out.
Bobby Bonilla closing in on it, and the White Sox had a serious injury a few years back with Tim Raines and Ozzie Guillen. Ozzie was out for the year with a knee injury. This is hit into right center field. Bonilla has a play this time and retires Darren Lewis. We have 2 outs, and Kruger at first base and Ozzie Guillen coming to bat.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. Kent Merker has just jammed the 3 hitters so far in this inning that he's faced. That is a real good sign because his stamina in the past has been a problem. Of course, in his early years with Atlanta, he had been a relief pitcher. Of course, then when he started, I think it was his first start in '94, he pitched a no-hitter against the Dodgers. It was 9-4 that year as a starter. But sometimes when you haven't developed a guy's arm strength, it takes its toll when he becomes a starter, if he's been a reliever, in the middle part of the game, 6-7 innings.
Ozzie Guillen bats with Kruder at first base. Right back to the screen, and 1 strike to count. Kent Mercker gave up the 2 White Sox runs in the first inning, Jeff, after 2 outs. And some believe that after a long layoff, May 26th was the last start and a win over Oakland for Mercker, that he goes out there strong, gets a couple of outs. I did pitch Frank Thomas toughly. Thomas had a check swing, could have been called strike 3. And Thomas got the benefit of the call, but double by Mouton, the triple, it was 2-0.
Now, they talk about this being a game of inches. That can be a game of inches where the ball is on the plate, too, or on a check swing type of thing. But he's been impressive today. Trent Mercker has really been impressive. Yeah, I have to laugh watching Ozzie Guillen. When I first went over the White Sox in '89 to be the manager, I was going to try to lead him off. Even though I saw his stats of like he gets 10 walks a year, he's got a saying that thou shalt not pass. Anything that's thrown to the plate, he's going to attack.
Slow curveball, strike to Guillen, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
So I used him as a leadoff hitter for about 2 weeks, and I saw enough, and he had enough. He went back to the 9th spot.
You didn't sit him on the bench very much, did you?
Oh, he drives you crazy. Ozzie Guillen, you want to keep in the lineup every day. You never know where he's going to be. I looked up one time in Anaheim. He was up there with a cameraman in center field in his uniform.
Into right center field, and this is going to get down for a Guillen hit. On to third, Chad Kruder. Runners at first and third, and 2 outs for the White Sox in the 6th. It's a 1-run ball game right now.
Well, this looks like a ball up in the strike zone, and Ozzie stayed with us. We said he's got this open stance, and he kind of dives back over the plate, and he had just taken a breaking ball for a strike. And here the ball is. It's kind of up and in. He stays open and stays on top of it. See how his right foot stays open, and he gets the hands through. That ball's on the inner part of the plate. That's where you're supposed to pitch him. I like his new stance. I think he's able to handle more pitches this way.
Pat Dobson is on a slow walk to the mound for the Orioles. And they have some activity going in their bullpen. The 6th inning with 2 outs. Alan Mills, the right-hander, is throwing for the Orioles. And a look at number 75, Alan Mills.
Alan Mills always threw hard. I remember when he was with the Yankees, always threw hard. The word on was he was a little straight in the zone, but he came down here to Baltimore, did a nice job for them, and then hurt his arm. He's a very strong power pitcher in the middle of a bullpen. He's a nice guy to have out there. Pat Dobson has finished his talk with Mercker. Very interesting situation of how they're going to pitch Tony Phillips here, and I think that's what Pat Dobson was giving the bullpen a little chance, and also Mercker a chance to catch his breath.
Phillips is batting .444 with runners in scoring position, as Tony Phillips will be up facing Kent Mercker. Terry Bevington hiding behind the telephone in the dugout on the third base side here at Camden Yards. Phillips has 1 hit and 3 at-bats, 37 runs batted in.
Whoa, that ball was a tough one. That is one of the toughest plays for a catcher to make. If he's looking for a fastball down and away, and the ball is thrown up like that, if your head is down too low, you don't get up fast enough. Now, Greg Zahn made a great play. That ball almost tailed away from him. Now, nobody in the ballpark probably realizes how close that ball was to going by him, but I guarantee you Zahn's heart is pounding a little harder right now.
1-0 on Phillips. 2 balls, no strikes, and the first pitch looked like it was going to be the best fastball Mercker had ever thrown.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think he knew he's in this situation. He's getting close to being taken out of the game. He was going to let it fly.
The White Sox have runners at first and third with 2 out. A 2-1 lead in Baltimore, top of the 6th inning. Foul tip, Zahn holds on.
Well, he's still popping the ball. That was 88, and he threw it right where he wanted it, right at Tony Phillips' letters. Now, the book on Tony Phillips is you can fool him with breaking stuff, and you can pound him hard to letters. I guess that works for everybody. But it'll be interesting to see now how Kent Mercker goes after Tony Phillips here, because this really could be the ball game if Tony Phillips is able to drive in another run.
Ball 3 high. Tony Phillips is going to walk 90 to 100 times a year. he'll probably strike out better than 100 times a year.
Yeah, he does. And I said something, and a lot of people say, what, are you crazy? You're only in the 6th inning. It could be the ball game. Little parts of the game. The bottom half of the 5th inning with Robbie Alomar hitting, that could be a major key. You start looking at the keys now in the games as you get farther along.
With the red dots at 1st and 3rd. Foul ball out of play for Phillips. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. The runner at 3rd, Chad Kruder, will look on as Ozzie Guillen will take off with the 3-2 pitch to Tony Phillips.
I played for a manager with the Dodgers, Hall of Fame manager named Walter Alston, and he hated to get hitters in 3-2 counts. The reason being, would come off the field, he said, Jeff, you're putting the opposition team who doesn't run that much in a running situation. So in other words, now it's 3-2. Ozzie Guillen will be running. If there's a ball in the hole, for an example, Cal Ripken might not be able to get to force at second base because Ozzie's running, and a ball in the alley might score him from first base.
The runner goes, and a strikeout. Tony Phillips strikes out, leaving Kruder at 3rd base and Ozzie Guillen at 1st. They played 5.5 innings. Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore. The White Sox scored 2 in the 1st inning. They're still leading 2-1. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning. The Chicago White Sox lead the Baltimore Orioles 2-1 at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And today's Men in Trivia question is, who are the only 2 players who played 500-plus games for both the Orioles and the White Sox? We'll have the answer later on in this half inning. The only 2 players who played 500-plus games for both the Orioles and the White Sox. The Orioles have the middle of their order coming up. The big hitters in Rafael Palmeiro, Bobby Bonilla, Cal Ripken. If anybody gets on, B.J. Surhoff. They're down by a run. James Baldwin comes out to work the 6th inning for the White Sox.
Don, and Baldwin is really up there in pitch count now. He's got 97, and that's a lot of pitches going into the 6th inning. What you would like to do is average as a manager somewhere between 12 and 15 an inning, and he's been in some trouble, and now he's out behind the mound leaning down on his knee. And when they say that in basketball, when the basketball players grab hold of their shorts, that means he's trying to get a little air. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure they're monitoring him very closely.
0 for 2 for Palmeiro today on a pop-up and a strikeout. A ball high. Palmeiro almost hit 1 out in the 3rd inning. That was a situation with Roberto Alomar on base and Baldwin working with several slide step moves to the plate. Deep to right field. Will this stay fair with Torborg at the wall? High off the wall. Palmeiro will stop with a double, a lead double in the 6th inning for the Orioles, and they have the tying run in scoring position.
Well, John, you can see what happened here. He couldn't get a curveball over in the first pitch, and he came in with a fastball almost right in the middle of the plate, up a little bit, and Palmeiro turned on it. So I'm sure Terry Bevington is looking very closely now at his young pitcher, who's probably pretty close to had it. He's a little winded at this point with a hot day and the emotion involved, and he's a power pitcher.
The White Sox have activity in the bullpen. Chad Kruder has been sent to the mound to allow the right-hander warming up a little more of an opportunity to get ready. Another look at the double by Palmeiro, his 12th of the year. And Terry Bevington is on a slow walk to the mound. Matt Karchner is warming up in the bullpen. In the 1990s, Palmeiro has 225 doubles, the best in the American League, while playing with the Texas Rangers and the Baltimore Orioles.
You know, John, it's interesting how Palmeiro has come along. When he was with the Cubs, and of course he was traded over to Texas in that big deal when Mitch Williams went to the Cubs, he was considered more of a spray hitter, and all of a sudden he started to get his power together. And I think this guy's taken kind of for granted in all the stars that are in the game now. Rafael Palmeiro is a star. He is a real good hitter.
Matt Karchner is warming in the bullpen, and Terry Bevington has made the move to the bullpen, so Karchner will enter the game, but nobody out in the bottom of the 6th inning. Rafael Palmeiro doubled high off the wall in right field. And Bobby Bonilla will be coming up after you watch these messages. The red dot at second base indicates Rafael Palmeiro is the tying run with nobody out, and James Baldwin on the White Sox bench in the third base dugout has gone 5 innings plus 1 batter. He walked just 1 today, struck out 3. So far, he has allowed 1 run, and the Orioles reached him for 6 hits. But Palmeiro is his property as Matt Karchner comes on in relief. right-handed pitcher who was in the Kansas City Royals organization, had some arm problems. Last year came up to the big leagues with the White Sox, and he has been Terry Bevington's good luck charm this year out of the bullpen, going 4-0, Jeff.
Yeah, he's a big guy, John. 6'4", 210. When you get a guy that has, sometimes guys will have seasons where their numbers aren't sensational, but they seem to get into situations and get you out of problems, and you score runs, and that's how he ended up 4-0 in the middle of the bullpen like that. And of course, it also is an indicator that your team can come from behind. But it's nice to have a horse that you can turn to in the middle of the ball game. You set your roles up in the bullpen specifically for a guy like this. You know, you're saying, okay, I'm going to use him in the 6th or 7th.
Bobby Bonilla is the batter with a tying run at second base. And today, Bonilla went 1 for 2 facing Baldwin. An opposite field hit in the first inning. In the second, then Bonilla was stranded at second base. On the right side of the infield for Ray Durham. Bobby Bonilla moved Palmeiro to third base with 1 out, where at least a fly ball to the outfield can bring in the tying run. And Cal Ripken Jr. is the batter.
Well, that was a pretty good piece of hitting. I'm not sure he wanted to try to do that when you. Now they're taking him back. It must have been interference. I don't know if that was catcher's interference. It looks like, because Bobby Bonilla is placed at first base.
He's on first base.
Rafael Palmeiro will go back to second base. It had a funny sound to it. And Bobby was trying to pull the ball, and the ball went to second base, so he must have nipped the glove of Chad Kruder. Here's the swing. Had a difficult time seeing that on the replay, but I guess he hit the top of Chad Kruder's glove, and therefore he's given first base.
And an error on the catcher.
Yes, that's embarrassing. And that can happen sometimes when a guy has either moved around in the box or you moved up a little bit to make sure you got a different pitcher. You want to make sure he cut his breaking ball. You reach too far into the strike zone.
Ball 1 to Cal Ripken with runners at first and second base. The White Sox have made their first mistake of the day. Frank Thomas will play behind the runner at first. At second base, Rafael Palmeiro is the tying run. Karchner with the backhand on ball 2. Nice job by Kruder helping Karchner with the backhand. 2 balls and no strikes.
As you watch a catcher set up in a game, you can watch him move back and forth on the plate. Now, if he were sitting on the outside part of the plate right there, maybe on the corner, now that ball was wild away, he'll slide a little bit more to the plate. And, of course, the count dictates that. He's got to get a strike right here.
2-0 on Ripken. A little bit low for ball 3. 3 balls and no strikes. And the Orioles today are 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position.
Well, here we are back to a 3-0 count in a situation with a power hitter. Of course, it's happening with a different ball club. Does Davey Johnson let him hit 3-0?
He did in the record-setting game last year. It was a home run. Ball 4 and the bases are loaded with nobody out. The 21st walk for Matt Karchner in 35 2/3 innings. Now the tying run is at third. The go-ahead run at second base. Palmeiro at third, Bonilla at second. Cal Ripken Jr. at first base, and Surhoff coming up.
They just had a shot of the dugout. You're watching James Baldwin, who pitched so well, wondering, is this slipping away? You're looking at Terry Bevington figuring, how am I going to stop this right now? And, you know, how we're going to play it defensively and how we're going to pitch him. And do I think about getting another pitcher up? All sorts of thoughts going through the manager's head.
With nobody out, the White Sox play their infield at double play depth. They'll give up the tying run to get 2 outs. Strike 1 on Surhoff, who was out swinging in the 4th inning and grounded out in the 2nd. Surhoff, 1 of 3 strikeouts for James Baldwin today. Baldwin walked just 1. Now Karchner is on trying to pick up the White Sox starter. But the Orioles have a chance to break through. Off-speed pitch.
Well, it's amazing how a pitch can change a particular count. If that first pitch to Surhoff missed, and it was right there, it was a very questionable call. If that had missed, then all of a sudden he's up 1-0, and he doesn't flail at this all-speed pitch like this. But now he's behind in the count. They throw him a changeup, and he swings. It's not a real good swing.
Nice block by Kruder. 1 ball, 2 strikes on B.J. Surhoff. Carlton Fisk used to keep a stat, runs saved, for situations like that. For Greg Zahn, we saw him jump for the high fastball earlier in the game. That would be a good stat to keep in all the statistics that are around baseball.
You're not kidding. It's so important. Magruder has saved 8 runs this season. He hasn't even played that much.
Outside, 2 balls and 2 strikes, and no place to put B.J. Surhoff.
You know, that's one of the things people don't think about either too much. For the young viewers out there, how important the catcher is. If you got a young kid who wants to catch, what a great position. You got to do a lot of thinking. You get beaten up, but it's a very rewarding position.
Out of play, and the count 2 balls, 2 strikes on Surhoff.
For an example, here's Chad Kruder with the bases loaded, worrying about a ball in the dirt. He's got to block it. He's also got to try to catch anything that might be fouled off by Surhoff, but at the same time, he's got to call a pitch and make sure the runner at second base doesn't see the signs that he's calling. A lot of things going through that catcher's mind.
Also called the defensive sets for the White Sox in the infield. Swing and a foul tip. Kruder hangs on, strike 3. A foul tip into the catcher's mitt. Surhoff is out on strikes, but that's 1 out. Here's the Oriole catcher, Greg Zahn, and Terry Bevington going to the mound.
Now here's B.J. swinging at this ball down. Kruder backhanded it, caught it right up in the webbing, just stuck in there. There's not much a catcher can ever do in that situation. He can't figure, I'm going to do this and do that. He has to put the glove where he last saw the ball. If the hitter changes direction a little bit by foul tipping it, he's lucky if he catches it.
Bases loaded, 1 out. Greg Zahn got a fly ball the last time he came to bat. What do you think went on in the huddle on the mound with Terry Bevington on this trip, Jeff?
I think what they're thinking about is they're going to play the infield back in the middle and try to get 2. But I think what Terry went back and told Karchner and mentioned it to Chad Kruder, we want to get a ground ball at worst here. If we get a strikeout, we would love it. Get a ground ball so we can turn to double play. Don't be pitching up in the zone too much. Stay down. If pitchers keep the ball down in the zone, more often than not, you'll see a ground ball.
Greg Zahn is 0 for 2. The 3 red dots indicate the bases are loaded. 1 ball, no strikes on Zahn, who's batting left-handed against the right-hander Karchner. Tying run at third base, 1 out for the Orioles. 1 ball and 1 strike. Brian O'Nora yells out strike 1 on Zahn.
Interesting, if you watch a catcher, it's much easier to get strikes on the outer half of the plate to begin a count. So they're staying out there trying to get ahead. If they then get ahead in the count, then they might move back inside or throw breaking stuff.
A double, catcher's interference, and a walk loaded the bases. Popped up. Shortstop Ozzie Guillen with the infield fly rule called. Makes the catch anyway. With the infield fly called, Zahn was automatically out.
Well, that was a very good pitch. That was a riding fastball. The ball was down a little bit, up and away from Greg Zahn, and it looked good to start with, but he kind of came off the ball. It was away from him and away from his power, and he just popped. He got under it and popped it up. Now, the job is not done. Now, this is one of the things we used to stress with our guys. This is the biggest out now. Don't give in because you got the 2, what you thought were the toughest outs. You really got to bear down now to get the 3rd one.
Jeffrey Hammonds is the batter with a fly ball to the warning track in the 3rd for an out and a base hit in the 5th. 1 ball, no strikes on Hammonds. We go back to the 3rd inning. The bases were loaded with 1 out for the White Sox, and Kent Merker managed to get out of trouble with Danny Tarnable hitting a ground ball back to the pitcher for a force play, and Snopek fouled out. Overpowering cut fastball, a big swing and a miss by Jeffrey Hammonds.
That was a nasty slider. That ball, the bottom fell out of that ball. Jeffrey Hammonds has changed his stance. He used to be a closed hitter. His left foot used to be toward the plate. His right foot was back. Now he's parallel. But he used to, from a closed stance, used to hit the ball a long way to right field.
Another slider and a strike called. 1 and 2 on Hammonds.
That's funny. That was a breaking ball that was supposed to be on the outside part of the plate. He's looking for the ball over the outside part of the plate, and it stayed inside. That's almost a hanging slider. You're supposed to hit that out of the ballpark.
Time called by Hammonds when Karchner was ready to pitch.
Sometimes balls, they call them backup sliders, meaning sliders that you want to break on the outer half. If you throw them in the inner half, they don't go anywhere. They sit there and spin. Well, that just fooled Jeffrey Hammonds. He's looking for a good one out there, and instead he got a spinner.
Bases full, 1 and 2 with 2 outs, and the Orioles down by a run. That's popped up, and Ozzie Guillen, the White Sox shortstop, calls everybody off. and makes the catch on the outfield grass, bringing out the Boo Birds here at Camden Yards. The bases were loaded, nobody out. Palmeiro, Bonilla, and Ripken were stranded by the Orioles in the sixth. We move to the seventh inning. Chicago comes up leading 2-1. We'll be back after these messages from your local. Oriole Park, Camden Yards in Baltimore, with the White Sox coming to bat in the seventh inning, leading the Baltimore Orioles 2-1. Alan Mills is the new pitcher for the Orioles. He takes over for Kent Merker. Merker went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs on 10 hits, and Alan Mills is 1-0 with an earned run average of 5.19. He's on for his 8th game.
Mills a big, strong kid, John. He's 6'1", 195, and he can throw the ball well. He's had a bad arm, but he's ready to throw again.
In today's Men in Trivia question, who are the only 2 players who played 500-plus games for both the Orioles and the White Sox? The answer, Luis Aparicio for the White Sox, 1,511 games for the Orioles, 721. Don Buford, 665 games for the Birds, 621 for the White Sox. Leadoff batter for the White Sox is Ray Durham against Alan Mills. Mills struck out 5 of 8 batters he faced Thursday night against the Detroit Tigers. 1 strike here to Ray Durham. Durham's average is .277. He has gone 1 for 3 today. 0-2, just like that.
Well, that's one of the things that they stressed with Alan Mills after he was with the Yankees, came down to Baltimore, is to throw strikes, because Johnny Oates had used them a lot, and a lot of times he started nibbling, and he has a good fastball.
Foul ball on the right side. Zahn set up outside that time, Jeff. That was right down the middle.
Well, you know, John, we've done a lot of talking over the last couple of years in broadcast booth around this country that you don't see a lot of hard throwers anymore. We've had 4 pitchers now today who throw in the low 90s.
Fouled off the plate over to the Oriole dugout on the first base side. The count holds at 0 balls, 2 strikes on Durham.
That was a nasty split finger right there. The bottom fell out of it, but the fastball that Mills threw 2 pitches ago was 92. Now you throw a split finger out. You know, in the old days, the same action that you see on a split finger nowadays was what you used to see on the illegal spitball. Same lack of rotation.
And it's still illegal. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Durham.
And it was nasty to catch.
Why aren't there more hard throwers?
I don't know. I wonder if maybe the kids don't throw enough. When they're younger, nobody goes out and plays in the Little League unless they have a uniform on. We used to go out and get 35, 40 at-bats a day hitting on a local field. I don't know. Maybe the aluminum bat has made pitchers all become a trick pitcher in the minor leagues because you can't jam anybody with them.
Tap, foul at the feet of the catcher, Greg Zahn. The count holds 1 ball, 2 strikes.
My oldest son pitched in North Carolina with B.J. Surhoff and with Scott Bankhead and Matty Marullo and Walter Weiss. They had a good team, you know.
Yes, they did.
And he went up, and he had faced nothing but aluminum bats in high school and in college. He goes up and plays a summer in Cape Cod Summer League, and he said, man, I can pitch here. He was breaking bats left and right. That's the difference of pitching against aluminum bat.
This is popped up. Zahn wants it, shades his eyes from the sun. Durham is out, and Frank Thomas is the batter for the White Sox. That's the 3rd time Zahn has made a play in foul territory for outs. Snopek was the first 2. And Ray Durham here in the 7th. Frank Thomas has a run scored, a walk, a single today, and hit into a double play in the 5th inning that was nicely turned by B.J. Surhoff, Roberto Alomar, and Rafael Palmeiro. .339 average for Frank Thomas. 1-0 on Thomas. Thomas was quite disappointed when Julio Franco did not come back. Went to Japan last year and then signed on with the Indians this year. 2 balls, no strikes on Thomas.
When you have a good hitter hitting behind you, it's called protection. When you got somebody who can hit the ball out of the ballpark behind you, then they can't pitch around you as much. But you'll still pitch around a Frank Thomas, but it helps to have power behind you.
To the 3rd baseman, Surhoff, deep behind the bag. And safe at first base, Frank Thomas. Thomas is safe. I was waiting on Durwood Merrill, the umpire at first, to see whether Palmeiro had been pulled off the bag, and then Palmeiro dropped the ball.
Now, that was a strange-looking play. Frank pulled off the ball, and then B.J. took the bouncer, threw it across the infield. Oh, I see what happened. Palmeiro had to reach. He was in the middle of the base, had to reach up over Frank's head. The throw was up and into the runner, and he had to reach. That's a very dangerous play for a first baseman. Throwing to the runner can get somebody really hurt.
Runner at first base with one out. Lyle Mouton, he was swinging for a home run that time, Jeff, after getting a double and 2 singles the first 3 times up.
Well, you can afford to do that on a strike or 2 and then go back to your swing where you're staying in the middle of the field.
And all the way back to the screen, Frank Thomas will make second base. An error allowed Thomas first base, and now he's at second. The ball got by Greg Zahn.
Well, being a prejudiced catcher, I have to say this is a wild pitch, and it certainly was. He couldn't get to that ball. That's the thing we were talking about before. If you're looking in a certain zone for the ball, and he's looking for the ball around the plate, and all of a sudden it's 2 feet away from you, it's awful tough to react, and especially to your backhand. And Greg Zahn tried to get that ball. He did nick it with the glove, but could not snag it.
Wild pitch allows Frank Thomas second base. What error did you charge in your scorecard with Frank Thomas?
I charged on the throw from BJ.
It went as an E3 with an assist to Surhoff. Mouton takes low. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Interesting. I thought that throw where it was pull him off base.
Orozco is the left-hander. Rocky Coppinger is the right-hander. Just called back by the Orioles. Fastball tied Mouton up. The high fastball, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, Greg Zahn was catching a left-hander in Merker for the first 6 innings, and now he's got Alan Mills, and Mills is a little bit wild, which he used to be, and all of a sudden now the ball is jumping out of Greg's glove. He's trying to defend the area now.
Mouton has 3 hits and 3 at-bats and a run scored. He was able to hold up on that high fastball. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
You know, it's interesting, John. You watch a catcher work, and pitchers and catchers can get into a flow. They get into a flow with their sign selection of pitches, but they also get in a flow if the catcher sets up in a certain spot. And the hitter, I should say the pitcher hits his glove, it becomes a flow, and then all of a sudden they get in it, and all of a sudden you get a wild pitcher comes in. Man, you don't know where to go.
3-2. Strike 3 on Mouton. Mills got a pop-up, got a ground ball from Thomas, and an error charged to Palmeiro allowed Thomas first base. Now Mouton strikes out. Danny Tartabull comes to bat for the 4th time. Tartabull was up with the bases loaded and hit a ground ball back to the pitcher at the time, Kent Merker. Merker got a force out at the plate and then got out of trouble with a foul out by Snopek. That's a foul ball. Tapped into the catcher's glove. Home plate umpire Brian Honora was looking back to the screener trying to get his head out of the way. Now he wants to inspect the baseball.
John, we were talking earlier when Tartabull was at the plate about when he signed with the Yankees. Some people said, well, why would you sign a power-hitting right-hander in Yankee Stadium where you have a short porch in right field? Well, one of the reasons is because he's got great power into right center field like a left-handed pull hitter. And if he doesn't do that, then he'll be pulling off the ball.
1 strike. That's out of play to the right side. The White Sox scored 2 runs in the first inning with Danny Tartabull at the plate. Now, he didn't go to right center field with this one. He pulled the ball. And Tartabull tripled to drive in Frank Thomas and Lyle Mouton. Now he's facing right-hander Alan Mills. Right-hander against right-hander. Zahn is able to keep the ball at home plate. They count 1 ball, 2 strikes, and that didn't look easy, Jeff.
It isn't. He's starting to look like a boxer out there. You know, you say, oh, the catcher's called a receiver.
Well, how much does the mask get in the way when you try to find the ball at that point?
It does when it gets under you, but what happens if the ball is jumping around like this, it looks like Mills' fastball is jumping a little bit, and occasionally his hard breaking ball will move, and other times it won't, and all of a sudden you're jumping all over the place just trying to catch the darn thing.
Tartabull strikes out on a high fastball, so the error didn't hurt the Orioles in the 7th inning. Thomas is left at second base, and the White Sox have stranded 9. Brady Anderson will be leading off for the Orioles, who trail the White Sox 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 7th. 2-1 in Baltimore, and this game summary is brought to you by 7-Eleven. The White Sox managed a couple of runs in the first inning. Robbie Alomar is 2 for 3. He has his batting average up to .412 now. The White Sox got a 2-run triple from Roberto Alomar in the first. Lyle Mouton has gone 3 for 4 with a double and a couple of singles. As we promised you earlier, here is a triple by Torborg, and he pulled this one, Jeff.
He sure did. He really juiced that ball. It came within 2 feet of going out of the ballpark.
That scored Frank Thomas and Lyle Mouton, and the White Sox did their damage in the first inning after Merker had retired Phillips and Durham leading off the game. New pitcher for the White Sox, second pitcher out of the bullpen today, is left-hander Larry Thomas. Larry Thomas is 2-3, a 3.60 ERA. He has come through the Chicago White Sox minor league system and works for the 29th time. 15 hits in 15 innings of work. And Thomas would like to cut down on his bases on balls. Brady Anderson leads off for the Orioles. Big breaking ball strike.
And that's exactly why Terry brought him in. He's a left-handed pitcher, and he'll be facing Brady Anderson and Luis Polonia if he stays in the game. But Mike Devereaux is already out on deck. But this is what Terry's trying to do, nullify the left-handers.
Jammed him, and a pop-up on the right side. Ray Durham wants it. 1 out. But a scoring change. The Orioles are going to have a pinch hitter coming up. But the scoring change goes back to the 7th inning with Frank Thomas is at bat. Jeff Torborg, and I agree, it should have been an error on B.J. Surhoff, an E5. They took the error away from Palmeiro. Mike Devereaux's the pinch hitter. It was with the Dodgers over here to Baltimore. Then with the Chicago White Sox, was with the world champion Braves last year, back in a Baltimore uniform. 1 strike to Devereaux. For the left-hander on the mound, Jeff, the right-handed batter, Devereaux, gets a chance.
Well, that's what you look for when you try to set your bench up, is have a guy coming off the bench
0-2 on Devereaux.
Who can either step in when somebody's hurt, play regularly, or come off the bench and be a good pinch hitter and go out to the field and still defend well. Mike Devereaux is that kind of player.
That's a base hit on an 0-2 pitch, and Devereaux is the tying run at first now with 1 out.
Well, that's what you got him up there for, a veteran player stepping up there. Now he's going against the left-hander.
And how about the location here?
Well, he tried to get the ball away, and it got too much of the plate, and it was too high. It was about belt high, and it was a line drive to center field.
Devereaux at first base. Roberto Alomar will bat right-handed now. Alomar, coming into the game, was hitting .434 left-handed, .359 right-handed. Has upped his average to .412 by going 2 for 3.
John, that's one of the things that bothers a manager is when you bring a pitcher in and you got a switch hitter coming up against you. You don't know which way to go.
There's a strike right down the middle. With some switch batters, the manager is certain, but not with this one.
No, that's right. You can look at somebody's stats, and sometimes a guy is nowhere near a hitter from one side of the plate compared to the other, so that's why you turn him around. The worst thing you do is get against a ball club that has a number of switch hitters, and then you're not sure which way to go with your middle relief.
Like the Dodgers used to be.
Whole infield.
In the dirt, blocked by Kruder. 1 ball, 1 strike. Roberto Alomar. He homered last night, got a single the first time up today and a steal, and drove in the Orioles' run in the 3rd. There's Joe Nosek on the right, sending along the sign to catcher Chad Kruder. Curveball high. 2 balls, 1 strike on Alomar.
Of course, you're never sure where any team will run at any time, but Devereaux is 2 for 4 in stolen base attempts. But you got the heart of the Baltimore Orioles order coming up, and I do not think you'll see Devereaux running here, not with a 400 hitter at the plate with his big guns and Palmeiro behind him.
On the throw to first base, no tag by Thomas on Devereaux. 2 balls and 1 strike. Here we are on the 8th of June, Jeff. And many believe it's too early to talk about Robbie Alomar hitting 400. But even if he doesn't hit 400, many believe that he can challenge the highest single-season batting average by a switch hitter this century. Popped him up. Short right field. Danny Tarnable has it tracked now. Alomar is out. And now a 2 away before the next hitter, Rafael Palmeiro. Let's go to Chip Carey in Hollywood for an update.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Excitement galore down in the Astrodome. The Killer Bees strike again. Game tied at 3 in the 6th inning. Craig Biggio, a 3-run blast, his 6th home run of the year. The Astros added another run as well. They have this one in control, 7-3 at home in the 8th. Back to John in Baltimore.
The Astros are up 7-3 in our game here. Bottom of the 7th inning. Mike Devereaux's the tying run at first base. Palmeiro the batter. The White Sox are leading the Orioles 2-1, out hitting the Birds today 10-6. Larry Thomas is on in relief of Matt Karchner, who worked 1 inning, coming on for the starter James Baldwin. Baldwin and Merker are the pitchers of record, and they're out of the game now. Breaking ball strike to Palmeiro. Was talking about Robbie Alomar. Even if he doesn't hit 400, many think that he can break Mickey Mantle's 365 in 1957 for the Yankees. They feel that's attainable, but 400? Too many people tell me, Jeff, that's out of the question, and history backs that up.
I think it'd be awful tough. Probably, I don't know if it's the toughest record to achieve at this point, other than trying to catch Cy Young's wins in pitching. But
or DiMaggio's hitting streak. In the dirt to Rafael Palmeiro, 1 ball and 1 strike.
I remember having caught Don Drysdale's consecutive shutout streak. I didn't think that was going to be broken. Of course, Earl Hershiser did that in 1988. Hitting over 400 the way the schedule is nowadays, I'm not so sure that that can be done. I think the 61 home run level can be broken. Not that it's an easy thing to do. Right. I don't mean that, but I think the way the balls are flying out of the park, yeah.
1 ball, 1 strike on Palmeiro. Palmeiro was backed away for ball 2. 2 balls and 1 strike. Well, Rafael got a double and was left at 3rd in the 6th inning, Jeff.
Excuse me, John. I didn't mean to interrupt there. I was thinking about when we were talking about Alomar. If you have a guy who can run, Tony Gwynn was shooting for it in '94. He can run. If you can run, you'll leg out some infield hits as well.
Strike 2. 2 balls and 2 strikes on Palmeiro with 2 outs in the Baltimore 7th.
Well, we're in a situation right now, John, as I'm watching Larry Thomas face Palmeiro. One of the things that he's done very well coming in against left-handers, as soon as he's gotten ahead with a breaking ball, he's had the advantage against the left-handers, and he's done that with Palmeiro. Now he's got to put him away. And I don't think he wants to go to 3-2, so it'll be interesting to see the pitch selection here.
Runner at first. Devereaux is still there, back in standing.
Well, this is what it's fun to watch the game, because Chad Kruger had set up inside, so you know it's not going to be a breaking ball. So what they're going to try to do is pop him inside with a fastball. Remember earlier we said the book on Palmeiro is early in the count, pitch him away. When you're even or ahead in the count, pitch him in. So we'll see now if after that throw over he goes back inside. No, he went away now.
The 2-2 pitch. High pop, left side of the infield for shortstop Ozzie Guillen. He makes the catch, and the Orioles strand Mike Devereaux, who got a 1-out pinch hit single. We go to the 8th inning, Oriole Park at Camden Yards in Baltimore. The White Sox lead the Orioles 2-1. Very good game for you today. Oriole Park at Camden Yards with the Chicago White Sox leading 2-1. Larry Thomas was able to get out of trouble the bottom half of the 7th inning. Bill Buckner, the hitting coach, has he turned part-time pitching coach?
Absolutely. Outstanding left-handed hitter in his own right, trying to tell a left-handed pitcher how to face left-handers.
Robin Ventura is pinch hitting for the White Sox. Alan Mills gets ahead of the left-handed batter, 1 strike.
I'll tell you what, one of the first things I ever heard when I became a coach, Frank Robinson was the manager for the Cleveland Indians. He says, nobody's area of responsibility is just stuck in that, focused in that area. We are here as a team, and that's great to see. I like that.
275, 13 homers, 38 runs batted in for Ventura. Split finger pitch and a check swing. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Boy, Robin Ventura. We've talked a lot about Frank Thomas, how good a hitter Frank Thomas is, and there's Buckner sitting on the bench with Tony Phillips. And Billy Buck has been around this game a long time, really knows the game.
Slider for a ball, 2 balls, 1 strike.
And that's great to have a hitting coach who looks at it from a different perspective, go up to a left-hander probably before the game, say, now, You want some advice how to get a left-hander out? I can tell you. I know how they got me out.
Bill Buckner, fine hitter with the Dodgers and the Cubs. The new hitting coach for the White Sox. The 2-1 pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Robin Ventura pinch hitting for Snopek. Terry Bevington has gone to the bench to Robin Ventura. The left-hander is pitched, and Chris Snopek has been in the game. From Snopek plays shortstop, going to Ozzie Guillen later in the ball game when a right-hander comes out of the bullpen. In left field, this is Jeffrey Hammonds. Ventura flies out, 1 away. Tonight it's Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Follow the Fox Tracks and the Colorado Avalanche as they head to Miami, where the Florida Panthers look to get back into the series at the Rat Palace. Don't miss any of the action. It's live, prime time, beginning at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time, right here on Fox. The pinch batter, Robin Ventura, flied out, and here's Chad Kruger. He'll hit left-handed against Alan Mills. A 2-1 lead for the White Sox, who bat in the 8th inning in Baltimore. On with Jeff Torborg, I'm John Rooney. Out of play, 1 strike on Chad Kruger, who has 1 hit and 3 at-bats today.
I remember years ago, Chad Kruger was struggling so much with the bat that they tried to have him hit only one way, and then, of course, now he's back switch hitting, which gives him an opportunity to come and play with a club. I mean, if you can hit from both sides of the plate and you're a catcher as a backup guy, you can really be a beneficial bench guy.
Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike on Chad Kruger with the Texas Rangers, Detroit, Seattle. The White Sox were using Mike LaValliere as their backup catcher. LaValliere was with the Phillies, Cardinals, Pirates in his career and finished up with the White Sox. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Now, it's been said in this game, if you can teach your son to be a left-handed hitting catcher, he's got a chance to make it in this game, because there aren't that many of them. You'd like to have that balance coming off the bench. The same is true. How many left-handers have you seen stay around this game to late ages who can pitch out of the bullpen? Rick Honeycutt, Tony Fossis. There's a real need for a guy like that. There's balance in the pen, balance on the bench.
Slider swung on and missed. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Chad Kruger. A couple of left-handed hitting catchers that come to mind, Ron Hasse and Jamie Quirk. They extended their careers.
Absolutely. I watched Hasse play in college. He was a third baseman. Switched to catching, and all of a sudden he put in, 12, 15 years in the big league.
Time called. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Chad Kruger. Nobody on base with 1 down, and Darren Lewis is the on-deck hitter for the White Sox. The Orioles have Bonilla, Ripken, and Surhoff coming up in the 8th inning. Kruger's out on strikes. 3 strikeouts for Mills out of the bullpen. 2 gone in the 8th inning. Mills struck out 5 out of 8 batters faced on Thursday night against Detroit.
John, as I'm looking at this White Sox team, we talked about in the beginning of the show about how the improved pitching and the White Sox are back at a higher level of play and efficiency. Just think about when the White Sox whole fortune started to change. That was when you had people
Ball 1 to Lewis.
Have people like Robin Ventura join the club, Frank Thomas joined the club, Jack McDowell was the #1 pick, came back in '90, and also Alex Fernandez came along.
Those were their 4 #1 picks in successive years. A ball high. The Orioles had to give up a #1 pick when they signed Roberto Alomar. Davey Johnson said that's fine. He's probably worth 2 #1 picks, but you don't want to do that very often because you're starting to mortgage your future.
Yes, of course, he's a young guy. I mean, 28 years old, and Robbie Alomar, he can play another 10 years.
In right field, Bobby Bonilla. 1, 2, 3 go the White Sox in the 8th inning against Alan Mills. Bobby Bonilla will be leading off the bottom of the 8th with the Orioles trailing Chicago 2-1. We move to the bottom of the 8th inning. Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Sellout today of 47,634. The White Sox lead the Orioles 2-1. With the Orioles coming to bat, the White Sox have made several changes going to the bottom of the 8th. New third baseman Robin Ventura came up as a pinch hitter for Snopek, stays in the game. In right field, Dave Martinez will take over. Danny Tartabull is out. New catcher Ron Karkovice replaces Chad Kruger. And a new pitcher, left-hander Larry Thomas, leaves in favor of right-hander Bill Seamus. Seamus is the third pitcher used out of the bullpen today by the White Sox, following Matt Karchner and Larry Thomas. And Seamus came to the White Sox in a trade with California about this time last year that sent Jim Abbott back to the California Angels. Bobby Bonilla is going to lead off against Seamus. Seamus, a hard thrower. Foul ball back to the screen. Bobby Bonilla today on interference, catcher's interference in the sixth. A ground out and a base hit. The numbers for Bill Seamus, a 4.11 ERA. He's out of the bullpen for the 27th time. Took something off that pitch, 1 ball and 1 strike.
John, when I look at Seamus' numbers, he's 0-3, as you mentioned, and 4.11 ERA, but the opposition is only hitting .224 against him.
Right back to the middle, of base hit for Bobby Bonilla, his second hit today. Tying run is on first base. Here's Cal Ripken.
John, we talked earlier, it looked like Bobby was struggling a little bit with his timing, but now he's keeping his balance and staying back. He stayed back on that ball and hit a fastball right up the middle and hit it hard. That's the first ball he's really tagged hard.
It looked like he was anticipating the fastball. 2 hits today for Bobby Bonilla, and here's Cal Ripken. Ripken got a base on balls in the 6th inning. 0 out of 2 officially. High fastball, 1 ball and no strikes.
Well, I didn't realize Seamus threw this hard. He's up at 94. I know he's a big guy, weighs 220 pounds, 6'3", 6'4". But I wonder what Cal Ripken hit the other night. He hit 3 home runs up in Seattle in 1 game.
2 balls, no strikes. Today at the All-Star game in Toronto, Cal Ripken won the home run derby.
Oh, did he hit some bombs? He hit some way up in the 2nd deck, 3rd deck. Well, he better be ready to hit a fastball because this Seamus can get it up there.
2 balls, no strikes with Bonilla at first. The Orioles down by 1. Strike called. 2 balls and a strike.
Now, that was a little cutter slider. That's what a cutter slider really is a fastball that's just turned a little bit, and the fastball slides. That was 87 miles an hour on a radar gun. That is an awful hard breaking ball.
Ripken has 19 hits in his last 59 at-bats. Out of play. The count 2 balls, 2 strikes.
John, here's what fans watching a game, kind of just take for granted. Can you imagine? Some people would be happy as could be to have an 87-mile-an-hour fastball. But when you're throwing the ball 94 miles an hour as a fastball and you're throwing an 87-mile-an-hour ball that moves, it slides, it doesn't go straight, you know the hitter's in trouble.
Down the right field line. Dave Martinez into foul ground. Out of room. A souvenir. Cal Ripken has a 2-2 count with nobody out. White Sox bullpen is quiet for the moment. Most home runs in Oriole history. Cal Ripken at 336. Runner at first base. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Bonilla at first, nobody out.
All right, now here's the question that you pose to the manager. Do you run Bobby Bonilla in this situation? You're 1 run down. You got a power pitcher on the mound.
I don't believe he will with Ron Karkovice in the game.
I don't think so either. You're taking a chance of a strikeout throwout.
On the right side, Frank Thomas loses his cap. Ray Durham picks him up. Durham makes the catch, retiring Cal Ripken 1 down.
John, I'm not so sure that I've seen a game in the last few years with so many pop-ups in the infield and for foul ground. I think that's a true indicator on how hard some of these pitchers are throwing today.
Here's B.J. Surhoff 0 for 3. I think the hitters are seeing the ball well with the backdrop, the ivy growing on the green batter's eye in center field. But I don't believe the white shirts in the stands just to the right of center are bothering them, do you?
No, I don't think so.
Chopped off the plate to first. Thomas picks it up in fair territory. On to second base, Bobby Bonilla. And now, first base umpire, Derwood Merrill, called it a fair ball. The home plate umpire, Brian O'Nora, called it a foul ball.
And B.J. Surhoff is saying it hit off his foot. That's where the argument is going. B.J. saying, that ball hit off my foot. Go talk to one of these guys. And Derwood Merrill gave the open palm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I call it a fair ball. And Davy Phillips at third base said, I didn't see it hit his foot.
I thought for a moment Honora had called it a foul ball, but now Surhoff is pleading his case.
Yeah, that's basically what's happening. BJ is saying that ball went off my foot. Here's a replay, and we'll take a look at it. And here the ball goes down. Yeah, it looks like it might have hit off the toe of BJ's foot. Now Terry Bevington's out there saying, hey, wait a minute, that can't be. That hit off the plate. That missed his foot.
Terry is saying, now Dave Phillips took the baseball, looked at it for shoe polish. And Terry Bevington's saying, no, that could have hit the black on the plate, on the corner of the plate. That's what he's pointing to now. And Terry's not buying the shoe polish call.
Do you remember where the first shoe polish call came? In the World Series in 1957, Nippy Jones with the Milwaukee Brewers got hit on the foot. No one called the play.
The Milwaukee Braves.
Excuse me, Braves. I'm sorry. At first I thought I was showing my age, but now I'm showing my lack of knowledge. But basically, the ball hit Nippy Jones, the left-handed hitter, hit off his foot, and the umpires looked at the ball and they were shoe polish, and they put him at first base. Because that wasn't a foul ball, that was hit with a pitch.
Terry Bevington still talking it over. Dave Phillips is trying to get away from the White Sox manager. B.J. Surhoff still has life. And Bevington may get tossed.
Terry's warming up now. Terry's way. If he stays after Dave Phillips has given him his chance, he's going to toss him up. Terry does a great job. I'll tell you, he could go out and argue with the best of them. He's like the old-time throwback guy.
So B.J. Surhoff will come back to bat. Bobby Bonilla is at first base.
And it's a high fastball that B.J. comes off of, and the ball goes down. And it looks like it hits right off the top of his foot or just misses the top. I'm not sure, but
it sounded like it hit something. I thought it went off the plate. And the ball brings the count to 2 balls and a strike. Just from the sound of it, and our view of the plate area is blocked by the catcher, umpire, of course. But in looking at the replay, it hit the shoe of B.J. Surhoff, and Dave Phillips made the correct call. In left field, Tony Phillips. Bobby Bonilla is still at first base and 2 out. The Orioles would have had a runner at second base and 2 out. But here's the sound of that foul ball. And you're right, it had a funny sound to it.
It did. It certainly didn't hit right in the dirt, but by the replay, it looked like it hit off his foot.
So runner at first, 2 gone, Greg Zahn. Foul ball down the right field line. In the new ballparks, Jeff, the fans really have to be heads up, don't they?
Oh,
close as they are to the
field.
field.
Not kidding. You know, the old ballparks, as what you're saying, John, is that the field was much farther away from the fans, and the fan-friendly ballpark now can be unfriendly if there's a bullet lined in there and you're not watching.
Jammed him in a ground ball to Ray Durham. Zahn is out. Bonilla is stranded, and that's 10 left on today by the Baltimore Orioles. 9-1-2. Guillen, Phillips, Durham. If anybody gets on, Thomas will bat in the ninth. 2-1 White Sox. We've reached the top of the 9th inning. Oriole Park, Camden Yards in Baltimore, with the Chicago White Sox coming up, leading the Orioles 2-1. The executive producers of Fox Baseball are David Hill and Ed Gorn. And at the end of our game today, Jeff and I will be selecting the Chevrolet Player of the Game. Randy Myers is the new pitcher for the Orioles. 0-1, a 2.75 ERA. 22nd game. The Orioles signed several people, brought several new folks in when Pat Gillick became the general manager. Davey Johnson was the manager of this ball club, but here is a true closer going from the left side. One of the nasty boys with the Cincinnati Reds, Jeff.
Yeah, this is a big move for them. They had Doug Jones here last year, and I think one of the things they went out to do was try to strengthen their pitching, and where they wanted to strengthen it was in the bullpen, in the closer, and they got the man.
Ozzie Guillen takes ball 1. 9-1-2 for the White Sox, who lead by a run. Guillen for the day. 1 out of 3. Opposite field and foul. They count 1 ball, 1 strike on Guillen.
You know, Randy Myers has been around a while. He's 33 years old, but he still throws real hard. Just got that last one up there at 91 on the gun. Has got the perfect mentality for a closer. He's a real aggressive guy. He walks around when he's not on the field in fatigues.
To the shortstop, Cal Ripken. He has to charge. Nicely done. One shortstop takes care of the other. One out in the ninth. Before Tony Phillips comes to bat, let's go to Chip Carey in Hollywood for an update.
Okay, guys, a wild finish at Tiger Stadium in Detroit. The Yankees had the bases loaded, nobody out in the ninth inning. Only scored one run. That's the final out of the ball game. And the Tigers, for the first time in 2 months, have won back-to-back games. They survive and beat the Yankees 9-7 at Tiger Stadium. Back to you in Baltimore.
All right, Chip, a 2-1 White Sox lead here. A strike on Tony Phillips with one out and nobody on base, so the Orioles need to rally to take advantage of the Detroit Tigers, who won 9-7 over the Yankees today. There's a strike. 0-2 on Phillips.
You know, I'm a little superstitious. If I were Buddy Bell, I might stay in that old uniform another day. That's 2 wins in a row over the Yankees for Buddy Bell's Tigers, who have been struggling terribly, but Buddy has been so patient.
Oh, good breaking ball, and Phillips is caught looking.
Well, Randy Myers just doesn't throw hard. He's also got a breaking ball. And he comes at you hard to get you set up for the breaking ball, and then all of a sudden he drops this back door. Here we are again. It looked like maybe a little cutter out there. And again, what back door means, on the opposite side of the plate, he just kind of brings it in around, curls it around.
Strike one on Ray Durham, and you saw Tony Phillips go back to the third base dugout. He went back with no argument whatsoever. 1 out of 4 for Durham, the second baseman and the second place hitter in Terry Bevington's lineup. Overpowering fastball. And the count on Durham 0-2.
You know, when we're talking about Randy Myers, you're talking about a guy who knows how to close games. Twice he saved 38. One time he saved 53 for the Cubs.
Took a little bit off that pitch. 85 miles an hour instead of 90. And out of play.
Of course, we were together when Bobby Thigpen set the Major League record 57.
You blew his arm out that year.
Yeah, that's what I heard some the media say. I blew his arm out.
Durham is out on strikes. Myers works a 1-2-3 ninth. Coming up in the ninth inning for the Orioles, Jeffrey Hammond, Brady Anderson, and Mike Devereaux. 2-1 White Sox. Stay tuned for the bottom of the ninth.
Baseball is brought to you by Coors Light, who salutes the 2 teams that reach the top of the mountain in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche and the Florida Panthers.
Bottom of the ninth inning with the White Sox leading 2-1. They've had the lead from the very first inning today. But as we go to the bottom of the ninth, they're going to be without their starting second baseman.
On that strikeout call, Ray Durham just stood there at the plate at first, and then he threw the bat over in Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire's way, and the helmet toward him. You cannot do that. You cannot show disgust by throwing your helmet or your bat. And even if O'Nora didn't see it, the other umpires did, and they ejected him.
So the new second baseman for the White Sox is Norberto Martin, number 7. Martin joins Robin Ventura, Ozzie Guillen, and Frank Thomas on the infield. Martin was just activated from the 60-day disabled list on Wednesday in Boston. The Orioles will try to make up the run here. Jeffrey Hammonds, 1 out of 3, leads off against White Sox closer Roberto Hernandez. 94 miles an hour on strike 1. Hernandez has worked in 25 games now, 1-0 with 17 saves and 17 opportunities and a 0.66 ERA. A ball low. He has blown 1 save, and that was the very first night in Seattle, opening night on March 31st. Since then, he's 17 out of 17.
You know, John, he's a great story. Back in 1991, I asked the club to bring him up, and he had a blood clot in his arm.
Out of play.
And when I was told that we couldn't have him, they said he not only has an arm problem, he has a life-threatening arm problem. And they went and they surgically repaired it with a different vein, and he came back up at the end of the year. We couldn't believe it. He came up at the end of the year, and then he replaced Bobby Thigpen a year or 2 later. And he's a great kid. That's a real wonderful story.
Strike 3 called, and now Hammonds barks at Brian O'Nora. 1 out in the 9th inning.
Wow, that looked like a perfect pitch on the outside part of the plate, and it was really popped. It was 97 miles an hour. And we get a great shot from above, and you can see where it is on the plate. And from above, it looked like it missed the plate, and maybe Jeffrey Hammond's had a beef. But at 97, might not have seen it, might have just heard it.
That's a good point. Foul ball by Brady Anderson. Anderson has been on base 2 times in the game. He doubled and scored the Orioles run in the 3rd when Robbie Alomar singled him in. Then a walk in the 5th inning. He popped out while facing left-hander Larry Thomas in the 7th. One ball and 1 strike on Anderson, who's batting .302, and that's where he started today. Roberto Hernandez throws a split-finger fastball in the middle 80s, a fastball that has been clocked as high as 100 miles an hour. On the right side, Thomas was guarding the line. That's a base hit for Brady Anderson. Now the tying run is on with 1 out in the 9th. Mike Devereaux came up to bat for Luis Polonia in the 7th and got a single on an 0-2 pitch. He'll be trying to move Brady Anderson from first base.
Now, John, on that particular pitch, he had just thrown a hard-breaking ball low and into Brady Anderson, and then he tried to throw a split finger in the middle of the plate. One of the things you worry about, the best split finger is the one that dives out of the zone. If you try to throw it for a strike, he could get hurt, and that just laid right in the middle of the plate for Brady, and he turned on it and hit it to right field.
Ground ball to Ozzie Guillen. That's 1. That's 2. And that's the game. Today's genuine Chevy player of the game is James Baldwin, the White Sox starter. He gets his 6th win in 7 decisions, 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 run earned with a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Today's genuine Chevrolet player of the game. Our final score from Oriole Park, Camden Yards in Baltimore, the Chicago White Sox 2, the Baltimore Orioles 1. The White Sox have won both games in this series. A 2-1 final, 10 hits for the White Sox, 9 for the Orioles, and each team had an error. So for Jeff Torborg, I'm John Rooney, saying so long from Camden Yards for our final score, 2-1 the White Sox over the Orioles. You've been watching Fox Sports coverage of Major League Baseball.